You're good.
Check, check. Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, May 22nd, and the time is 6:06 p.m. And this meeting is officially called to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brusher.
Here.
Councilmember Coyle. Councilmember Harris.
Here.
Councilmember Patel.
Here.
Councilmember Patil.
Here.
Councilmember Pointer.
Present.
Councilmember Ship Freeman.
Here.
Madam Clerk, adequate notice, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975 has been provided by the annual notice sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, Sentinel, and Desi Talk on December 1st, 2022, and posted Main Lobby Municipal Complex on the same date.
Thank you. Before we get started, we had received a communication which will be added onto the agenda for the next meeting. So at this time, I'd like to introduce the Environmental Commission in conjunction with Rutgers University for a presentation on stormwater management.
Okay, hey, thanks for having me here. My name is Chris Abrupta. I'm with Rutgers University. I am a professor in the Environmental Science Department. I teach environmental engineering. I am also the Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resources Program Extension Specialist. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Rutgers University is the land-grant college for the state of New Jersey. Can you guys see that? Is that?
Normally, they have it on the TV in front of us too, but it's...
Uh-oh. It's like my remote at home, no batteries. Good?
It's coming.
Just give it 1 second.
There we are. Sorry about that.
Got it? Okay. So Rutgers University is land-grant college for the state of New Jersey. This started back when Abraham Lincoln was president. They gave large chunks of land to universities across the nation so they could better teach agriculture and mechanical arts. Rutgers competed with Princeton. We beat out Princeton on this, and we became the land-grant college. So about 20 years later, we realized at Rutgers we didn't know how to teach agriculture and mechanical arts, so we formed the Agriculture Experiment Station so we can do all these experiments and learn how to be better teachers for farmers. And around 1914, we realized farmers really didn't go to college, they farmed, so we formed the Extension Service. We put a county office, Rutgers Cooperative Extension office, every county. And the idea was the farmer could go to the county when they had a problem, and there would be a county agent there. They would help the farmer address that problem. If the county agent didn't know how to do that, they would go to somebody like me at the university, and we would do research to figure out how to solve the problem. Now, since we stopped growing corn in New Jersey and started growing houses, we became more of an urban, suburban cooperative extension service. So I run the Water Resources Program. So the whole concept with this is my job is to extend the knowledge of the university out to the people of the state to help them solve their problems. So we've been focusing a lot on flooding issues in New Jersey. Obviously, we all know why, if we can just remember back a year or so ago when Ida hit. So these are things that we've been trying to address. So I've been asked to come here and talk to you a little bit about stormwater management. I've got about a 20-minute presentation. I'll take some questions afterwards. So what happens in New Jersey under natural conditions, we get about 10% stormwater runs off. As we add single-family homes, 1 to 2 acre lots, you get about 20% runoff. Quarter to half acre lots, you get about 30% runoff. And then when we have downtown urban areas, downtown developed areas, we get about 55% runoff. So as we add more what's called impervious surfaces, we get more stormwater runoff. So an impervious surface is any surface that water doesn't pass through. So it should be the roof of my building in the Environmental Science Department, but that leaks like a sieve. So hopefully it's the roof of this building, the parking lot, the driveway, the sidewalk. So as we add more of these hard surfaces and water can't pass through, we get more runoff, we get more flooding. So we've actually changed our nice natural hydrologic or water cycle into this urban water cycle. We get much less water going into the ground and much more water running off the land, and that's what causes our flooding. And as that water runs across the land, it carries pollution with it and pollutes our land. So there was a model that was done by a fellow down at the Center for Watershed Protection, this guy Tom Schuler, a great guy. I've met him a bunch of times. And he looked at the percent impervious cover in a community or in a watershed, and he compared that to water quality impairments. So what Tom said was, when you should get beyond 10% impervious cover, your waterways start to become impaired, Once you get beyond 25% impervious cover, your waterways become really degraded and not very supportive of any life. Tom got a lot of criticism for this, and he wound up looking at some other studies. And when he found out that these numbers were very accurate, but what he did find out was as low as 2% impervious cover starts causing water quality impairment. So we actually, at Rutgers, we did an analysis of the impervious cover here in Edison. I'll talk about that in a minute. So one way to deal with impervious cover is through green infrastructure. Okay, so I drove around Edison for about an hour before I got here. I got to see Lake Papiani, yes. It's a little hard for me to say that, but yeah. And I got to see the beautiful basin in front of where was I at? So over by Costco there. So yeah, so I was driving around a little bit, and what we do in New Jersey is we tend to put a big basin at the bottom of the hill and capture all the stormwater as it runs off the land and put it in that big basin. So what that does is when the water hits the ground, it picks up pollution with it, and it rushes down the hill to that basin, carrying the pollution with it. That basin lets the water out slowly, along with all the pollution. So what New Jersey DEP said, well, we should do it differently. We should use green infrastructure. So instead of putting in one basin at the bottom of the hill, we should sprinkle practice in throughout the entire development, capture rainwater where it lands before it becomes stormwater runoff, hold it, let it infiltrate back into the ground. So we filter the water, we absorb the water. In some cases, we actually can reuse the water. So there's lots of different green infrastructure practices. They're shown here. Green roofs are a common one that we've seen throughout the country. We focus a lot on rainwater harvesting. A lot of you may have rain barrels at home. That's an example of that. But we also do a lot of things called rain gardens. I'll talk more about that in a second. So, you know, I've got a PhD in civil engineering, and I know all these great fancy equations, but when it comes down to it, this is all you really need to know about stormwater runoff. You just need to control the water that's coming off of these impervious surfaces. If we can manage that, we can reduce pollution to our waterways, we can keep the lakes clean and algae-free, and we can also reduce flooding. So one way to do that is to depave. We've got a lot of asphalt and concrete in New Jersey. We can just get rid of some of that and maybe turn it back to a natural area. Sometimes we could simply disconnect. So instead of that downspout being piped all the way out to the road, have it run across the lawn. That lawn can absorb maybe the first half inch to inch of water from that rooftop, so it's pretty good. Another way to do it is with a rain garden. So a rain garden is basically a shallow landscape depression designed to capture water from an impervious surface. It fills with 3 to 9 inches of water during a storm event, and over the next 12 hours, that water slowly percolates into the ground. The rain garden is often designed to capture 3 to 4 inches of rain, so about a half of the 100-year storm. The 100-year storms in this area is about 8 inches of rain over 24 hours. The 100-year storm does not come once every 100 years. The chance of getting it this year is 1 in 100. That's where that 100 number comes from, okay? Hurricane Ida actually dumped about 8 inches of rain over 6 hours, which is more like the 1,000 or 2,000-year storm, okay? So the intensity was much greater. So these rain gardens are really nice because we can incorporate these into a lot of existing landscapes. We hear a lot of people talking about we want to stop flooding, we want to control improve water quality, we need to address it to new development. Well, that's great if you're not in New Jersey. Most of New Jersey has been developed before the 1990s when there was no stormwater management. So we actually, if we want to fix our problems, you have to go back in and sprinkle these green infrastructure practices in throughout the existing developments to capture the rainwater and better manage what we already have built in the past. Lots of different types of rain gardens. You can see this here in a picture here. The one in the upper right-hand corner is at a school. We do a lot of this work at the school. We actually did some work here at a school in Edison. We put a rain garden in already. At the middle school, the Thomas Jefferson Middle School, we did a rain garden here back in July of 2020. I'll show you some pictures of that later. But we like doing stuff at schools, you know, because we could, you know, people say, well, you could educate the kids. We think more of the kids as free labor, you know, and, you know, they're closer to the ground, so it's easier for them to plant. So it's a good thing for them. And, yeah, they do learn some stuff, too. So we can build a lot of these systems almost anywhere, and they can look very beautiful. We also have something called porous pavement, or permeable pavement. We actually we funded a porous asphalt at Dudash Park here back in August of 2021. We had gotten some grant money from New Jersey DEP and passed that on to the township, and they did put a porous asphalt parking lot in. So the way I describe porous asphalt is the original asphalt in this country was this very coarse material, and water passed right through the surface. So what we did is we compacted the ground, we put that coarse material on top, the water went through the asphalt but couldn't get into the soil, It just sat below the asphalt. So in the winter, it froze, expanded, contracted, and a pothole was created. So we as civil engineers, so we could fix that. We'll add fine material to the asphalt and water won't pass through. And that's the asphalt we use today. Now that works really well. There's no more potholes in New Jersey, right? So that worked great. Okay, so didn't really work so well, right? So we started thinking about this again. So why don't we go back to that very coarse material, but instead of compacting the soil, let's give it a place to go. So the water can go through the asphalt into a stone reservoir, sit in that stone until it's allowed to percolate into the ground. And you can see the cross section of it here on the right. That stone layer can be as thick as you need it to be to hold as much water as you want. For every 2.5 gallons of stone, you hold about a gallon of water because there's a lot of void space in that stone. The other thing that happens with this is there's no black ice. When you plow a parking lot, you push all the snow in the corner. During the day, the sun comes out, that snow melts, the water trickles across the parking lot. At night, it flash freezes. Somebody comes over, slips, breaks a hip, sues the township. A bad thing, right? With this stuff, the water goes right through the asphalt into the stone, and there is no black ice because it's not sitting on the surface. So it's a really nice material. It's a great place to store water in a very developed area like this, so it's very, very nice. So this is an example of porous asphalt. This is a parking lot we built in Clark. You can see the cartway where the cars pull in is regular asphalt. The spots are porous asphalt. We also use things called grass pavers. These are paving stones. They're 1 foot by 2 foot with the diamonds in the middle, about 6 inches of stone under these. Grass can grow through these. These can hold up a fire truck. These are great for emergency access roads, for parks, for things like that where you don't have people parking every day. It's a really nice feature. So what we had done in the past, we had a bunch of students, we had some funding and given students projects, and some of our students actually looked at Edison, and we did an impervious cover assessment. So we used land use data, and this was done a few years ago, so the land use data was a little bit old, but we looked at land use data, and this is the land use for for Edison. We have 6 different types of land use, right? So we look at agriculture, which there really is not much here. Barren land, forested land, urban land, water, and wetlands. And we make the urban red to show where the urban is, because that usually causes the most stormwater problems. You can see about 73% urban in Edison, and you can see this is how the urban breaks out. You have a combination of 32% low-density residential, you have 16% industrial, 10% high-density residential, about 11% commercial. So this is kind of how that 73% breaks out. So then we also look at sub-watersheds. And the reason we do that, most mayors in the town want to look at the entire town, but often there's money available from different sources like New Jersey DEP, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, to look at different waterways. So it's nice if we know what area our projects are in that we defined, and we could actually go after some of that funding. And that's how we were able to get money to do the 2 projects I mentioned earlier. So we look at impervious cover, and like I said, the bottom number, 36.2% is the impervious cover in Edison as a whole town. This data is kind of old. This data is from 2012. The new number is 42%, which I calculated last night using the most recent data, which is from 2015. So this has gone up quite dramatically. So then we also look at how much water runs off of those impervious surfaces. If we look at the 100-year storm, which is the last column on the right, you get about 1.6 billion gallons of storm water runs off just the impervious surface areas during that 100-year storm. If you look on the column all the way on the left, that's the water quality storm. It's 1.25 inches of rain over 2 hours. About 90% of our storm events come in storms that are less than 1.25 inches. So whenever you get to even those small storms, from the impervious surfaces in Edison, you're getting 235 million gallons of stormwater running off. It's a lot of water. Okay. So we don't want to just claim doom and gloom, so we want to actually propose solutions. So we identify sites usually in town where we might be able to go in and retrofit them to better manage stormwater. So these are the sites we pick. Schools, like I mentioned earlier, opportunity to educate kids and use them as free labor. Places of worship, I'd like to get into heaven someday, so I'm trying to do as many churches as I could possibly do, so that's another option there. Libraries are great places because we can do a project at the library, put flyers at the library, and people can get a lot of visibility. Municipal buildings, public works buildings. Firehouses are a great place to harvest stormwater because they always wash in those fire trucks. We can use rainwater to do that. And then we have some other places here. So we usually identify 20 to 40 sites, and we go around the town and look at what's available, and we put that into what's called an impervious cover reduction action plan. So these are some of the sites that we had identified in Edison. We identified 24 different sites. They're broken out by sub-watershed. I want to show you just a few of them. The Woodrow Wilson Middle School here is shown. So we have a lot of information on the school, but then we can actually show you, where we'd want to put the rain gardens in. So these would be rain gardens or in the green, light green circles there. And then we could also put in porous asphalt where the orange square is. And those blue dashed lines are the drainage areas. So those are all the areas we can manage of impervious surface with a few of these practices, right? Edison Public Library is another one. We put a beautiful rain garden here, really manage the entire parking lot. There's also an opportunity to put some porous asphalt there too. And then the Thomas Jefferson Middle School. This is kind of what we started with. And we had this project. We identified different places. And we went over to the middle school. We talked to the folks. We had gotten money from New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to put in some of the projects that we identified in the Raritan Basin. So being at Rutgers, close to Edison, we thought it'd be a great place to start. So that's how we funded the porous asphalt parking lot at Dudash Park. And this is how we fund the rain garden here at Thomas Jefferson. So this is the project under construction. We hired a contractor to come in and build it, at least to dig it out, and then we use the students to plant it. A lot of times the township themselves will help dig it out and excavate it out. We have a lot of Boy Scouts who want to do projects like this, and they can get their Eagle Award, or Girl Scouts get their Gold Award. So it's a great opportunity for them. So you can see here's the rain garden planted, right? And how beautiful it looks. We actually came back and maintained it a couple times, right? And did some weeding, and that's it. So why I'm here today is simply the Environmental Commission asked me to come here and talk to you guys about this. We do have some resources at Rutgers to do some of this design work, to design more rain gardens, to work with your community to put them in. What we would ask from the town would be a little bit of assistance. We work a lot with the Public Works departments to build these projects. These guys Public Works guys are absolutely amazing. This is something they never really do, and they get excited about it 'cause it's something different. So typically that rain garden that you saw at the middle school, that would have taken maybe about a day of two guys with a backhoe and a dump truck helping us dig it out. Whenever we do that, we have our engineers on site. I've got a full-time staff of 8 people who work for me at Rutgers. I've got engineers, landscape architects, environmental scientists. In the summer, we employ 10 full-time undergrad students to run around the state and help us do work. So that's another thing that we wind up doing. So that's kind of where we are now. I've already been contacted by a Boy Scout in town who wants to do a rain garden project. I've been in touch with him. Dorianne's been talking to me about different projects in town that she's been talking to people about. So that's it. Any questions? Excellent. Good.
Thank you, sir. Any council members with questions?
Council
Patil?
President.
Yes, Councilman Patil?
Yep. Thank you. It's a wonderful presentation and really eye-opening. We do have several flooding areas, and that's where my question comes in. And you have done enough study about the Edison to identify some of those areas and the pockets where we have the opportunity to use the stormwater management. If I two areas that prominently that strikes to my mind. One is the Stephenville Parkway. We have the big water stream that comes along all the way from Oak Tree Road, and every single season we have a problem there.
Right.
If we can, suggest something, I'm happy. Probably we can work with the administration to work on that. Similar situation we have closer to Summer Street area. We also have the situation. So long story short, we have opportunities. We do on the council keep raising some of those issues or concerns. And if we can get some grants, some help, and I think it will be well informed, I would say the study plus resolving those situations would be really helpful.
So a couple things about that. New Jersey DEP gives out money every year to do projects, and Rutgers, my group, gets a lot of that funding. And we get a lot of that funding because we partner with towns like Edison, but also because we have plans that we've already done. So we have actually design plans that are often called shovel ready. And DEP loves funding that because, they're just paying for the project to go in the ground and the design's already done. They actually gave some of my colleagues up at New Jersey Institute of Technology and Stevens Institute of Technology some funding to look at the lake here and the drainage area to the lake and identify projects there. So that's another thing that they're going to start doing probably later this summer. So I'll let you guys know when that starts happening, and and doing that study. But we'd love to look at other areas that flood into town and see what we can do to help
Absolutely.
with that.
We do have another area like Meadows Road. There is a big water line there.
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
if I,
I think one thing we have to be concerned about though is that when we get a storm like Ida, and it dumps 8 inches of rain over 6 hours, it's very difficult to manage that.
correct.
But when we get 2 or 3 inches of rain over a couple hours, there shouldn't be the flooding that we see in New
Mhm.
Jersey. We can do a better job of that. So that flooding that happens maybe 3 or 4 times a year on a regular basis, that can be just as devastating to homeowners and property owners. We can address that with some of the management techniques. When you start getting these bigger, really big storms, then a lot of times you just have to get out of harm's way, and there's not a lot you can do about that. So,
Again, thank you, Environment Commission, for bringing this to this council. Again, thank you for good work.
Council President,
Yes, Councilwoman Freeman?
sir, I noticed you talked about asphalt a lot, and then I heard about pavers. Can you tell me what the difference would be between the asphalt and the pavers? Because it looked like to me when I see pavers, the water is able to be absorbed better through those than it is with asphalt,
so
but
yeah, so it's really we refer to the term as permeable pavement, right? So there's a porous asphalt, there's a pervious concrete, which looks a little bit like those rice cakes, very popcorny in nature, and water passes right through that. There's permeable pavers, which you're talking about, the paving systems, and then there's those grass pavers that I showed you. Those are kind of the four types of systems. Um, they all can infiltrate water very effectively if you build them the right way. So they need to have stone underneath. That's not the stone can be compacted, but the soil under the stone can't be compacted, so the water has a place to go. So a lot of it's about construction. Now, I've seen people put pavers in, but then I've seen them put this stone dust down and compact the heck out of it, so water can't get in, so they don't infiltrate that well. They do a little better than asphalt, but they're not really permeable. So there's a whole permeable paving system, and there's a way to do that the right way. And we actually do some educational classes at Rutgers about that for landscapers, and we're going to actually start doing some uh, landscaper educational classes in February of next year. We always do it in the winter because when these guys are a little bit slower, they're only usually plowing snow in the winter. Since we're never going to get snow in Jersey again, we're not too worried about that. So we'll have some educational courses for them on that and how to actually build these systems so they do infiltrate water into the ground, and also how to build the rain gardens and how to maintain that. So that's something we're trying to do. But you're right, the permeable pavers do a better job than the asphalt, but you really have to be careful how it's constructed. I've had a lot of contractors come in and say, because I'm on my own environmental commission, I got to go there later on to a meeting tonight, but I had contractors come in, we're going to do this, and I've seen them pour down concrete and put the paving stones on top of it, so that's not going to work.
correct.
So you got to just be very careful about that and make sure it's done the right way. And your engineers should be able to make sure they do that. So
Thank you, because I've been asked repeated questions about the difference between the pavers and the asphalt. So thank you for your information. Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President Harris.
Wonderful presentation, and I really love the idea of the recycling of the rain and making it clean rain. My question about the rain garden is, would a rain garden be a good host for butterfly and bee plants?
yeah, so all our rain gardens are designed to be pollinator gardens also. So all the plants we use in the garden are native to the area. So we have a lot of coneflower and black-eyed Susies, a lot of milkweed. So we're really trying to attract the butterflies and the bees for the pollinators. Um, what's interesting, we had one of our I actually teach a green infrastructure champions class, and I try to train people like some of the folks on your environmental commission on how to advocate for green infrastructure and how it works, so they're better educated and they can come and talk to a body like this and emphasize what needs to be done. We've had one person in Long Branch where they've actually did a program where they're mapping out where all the milkweed is going in rain gardens so they could show the whole pathway for the butterflies, for the monarch butterflies to get through, because they're obviously in danger now. So these are perfect tools for that. Now, the other thing people worry about the rain garden are mosquitoes. And rain garden is designed to infiltrate water within 12 to 24 hours. You need water standing above the ground for 72 hours for mosquitoes to breed. So they're not a problem if they're built right, so that's very, very important. Okay, so that's another concern that we always get.
That's
we hear
great. Thank
about.
you so much.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
I want to thank you, Christopher, for this wonderful presentation and the Environmental Commission for presenting this. And I also want to point out that today we will be implementing Complete Street design policy, and that includes green stormwater.
Yeah.
And so hopefully going forward, Edison will be building more green infrastructure throughout town and taking care of this flooding issue.
Well, we have, Rutgers has a green infrastructure guidance manual with a lot of engineering details in it for green streets like that. We also have a guidance manual for enhanced tree boxes, tree
Okay.
pits. What was happening in urban areas, people dig a 3-foot diameter hole and drop a 3-foot ball tree in there, and they look surprised 5 years later when it dies. So we were coming up with new policies on how to build the tree pit so the tree will live longer, not kick up the sidewalk, which is a big concern. So we have some information like that. So I encourage your engineer to reach out to us and be glad to give them that information. I'm a civil engineer. I never drew an original detail in my life when I was a consultant for 12 years. I always took one from my last design, but a lot of the engineers, they don't have any details because they've never done this before. So we put all our details that DEP has approved in the past up on our website, so they can download those and just use them, trying to give them a head start on it. So trying to make it as easy as possible. So,
All right, I'll take down your email. Thank you very much.
okay.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brusher.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. One would be, in this rain garden, let's say 5, 10 years from now, right? Because you're not compacting it. Does it compact itself over the time or fill in with soil and dirt that it needs to be, call it refurbished, pulling it up, digging it up, putting it back? What's the useful life?
That's a great question. I mean, what kind of long-term maintenance of these? I've been doing this for about 15 years in New Jersey. We built over 500 demonstration rain gardens throughout the state. Only one time do we have to go back and refurbish one, and that was one at an elementary school that the Home and School Association never managed. And it was still working right. The water was going in and it was draining. It just looked messy, and they didn't like that. So we went back, we weeded it out, and we put new plants in. What typically happens is the rain garden is usually about 6 inches deep, and we'll have 3 inches of mulch in the bottom. So 6 inches of storage on top of 3 inches of mulch. So every year you can rake that mulch out and you put new mulch in. If you keep just adding mulch, you're going to fill it up with mulch. It's not going to work anymore. So you have to do that. The thing after 10 years you're talking about, though, is interesting because sediment will wash in, and you can easily dig that out with a little shovel. It's not like a backhoe. It's usually just a flat shovel once a year, filling up a little Home Depot bucket and composting that. So that's not a big deal. What typically happens, though, is because the rain garden's getting all this water in it, a lot of the plants grow very quickly. So when we do it with kids with schools, we tell them, okay, put the plant, little 2-inch plug, 3 foot on center. So they put them in the ground, and the next class comes out and says, oh, look, there's a spot here. Next thing you know, they're 1 foot on center. So then I have to go back 2 years later and I have to thin it all out because it gets really overgrown. But now I have enough plants for another rain garden, 2 more rain gardens. So that's kind of one thing. It is a garden. It does have to be maintained, it has to be weeded on a regular basis, has to be trimmed back, taken care of. Sometimes plants die, they reach the end of their life, and we have to replace them. So we've never had anything where it's actually failed, where it stopped working. We've had it where after a few years, people weren't taking care of it right, so it didn't really look nice, had to just be cleaned up. And that's pretty easy to do, So right now, when we build something, we'll come back the first year, even the second year, and help the property owner maintain it, whether it's a school or municipality, whoever it is, and show them how to do it. But usually after the second or third year, the plants become pretty well established, so there's less weeds. The worst part is weeding. Nobody likes weeding, right? But once it gets established, it's not too bad. And then you just have to worry about the next 3 or 4 years, things getting too big. A lot of these shrubs you can trim back, a lot of plants you can trim back. There's a lot of plants that we're looking at now where we leave them through the winter. Instead of cutting them down in November, we cut them down in March. It keeps its seed head in the winter, so it's not like this vacant garden in the winter. It actually has some character with some dried out plants and stuff, so it looks really nice. So that's been our experience. There are pollutants that come into this, and they get trapped in the sediment in the soil as it goes through the garden. We've never seen, all the studies I've seen has never shown any of the gardens accumulate enough pollution where it becomes a hazardous problem. There are some metals that come in from the roadway and things like that, but usually the concentrations are very small. There's also some pollutants that come in and get decomposed by microbes that are inside the mulch layer and the soil layer. So it actually helps out too. So.
Okay. the other question is, do you provide like counseling to our, let's say, DPW director or the
Yeah,
business
actually, I do a
administration?
lot of training of public works guys. I just did one in Woodbridge last week. 80 parks guys and roadway guys and public works guys were there. But yeah, we teach them about green infrastructure. We teach them how to maintain green infrastructure. So the important part of it, though, is teaching them how it's supposed to function, right? What we found as the public works guys, once they know how it's supposed to work, they can understand if it's working right and what has to be done to make sure it stays working right. When we actually go out to maintain it, we will meet the public works guys out there and actually maintain it with them and show them how to do that. We actually have a weed guide where you can look up, is this a weed? Is this a plant? What am I pulling out? Things like that. We also learned that a lot of these gardens, when we build them, we try to put some stone around the edges of it because we found that the public works guys will start mowing and they always get a little bit closer every time, right? But they're afraid to hit the stone with the mower because they break the mower, they're in big trouble, right? So we put stone around the edge so that way they don't get too close to it, and that works out really nicely and helps them understand where the edge of it is too. Yeah, we've had some great experience with parks departments and public works guys training them on how to do this stuff, and they like it because it's not filling potholes, it's something different. So we've never really had any complaints about it, so it's been really good. So it's not a lot of time either, too. That's people were, oh, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not too bad as far as that's concerned.
And with the pavement, now I haven't seen Dudash Park as of late.
Yeah, yeah,
I know that the previous mayor, Mayor Lanky,
yeah,
after explaining to him the importance of, stormwater runoff and all of that, he did, start to implement things,
Right.
and it was great. We have a new administration now. We haven't done anything moving forward to kind of do this.
right.
So that one was like an experiment for us to see whether, that would hold up for a couple years before we would expand that. I think we're at a point now where I think somebody from the administration should probably go look at it. And if it's held up good, it should be something that should be considered really on all the projects that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I live in Hillsborough, and I'm on the Environmental Commission in Hillsborough, and every development project that comes in has porous asphalt in it because of the stormwater regulations. And they've been doing a very good job of maintaining it. You have to vacuum it out a couple times a year so it doesn't get clogged, but it infiltrates so quickly, even if like 90% of it gets clogged, it's still going to function fine. So, but you really do have to take care of it and maintain it. And a lot of towns haven't been doing that. They put it in, they walk away. So that may be an issue here in Edison. You may have to check that out and see if it's being maintained right. And if it is clogged, you can still clean it out. We've done that ourselves with a power washer and just power washed it out, and it was fine. After we did that, but you have to make sure it's being vacuumed twice a year. It's a great place to store water. You've got all these parking lots all over the place, right? And there's nothing underneath them, so why not put some stone under there and store water under there? And that could really help with the flooding. Somebody before was mentioning earlier that these areas flood. Well, if those areas flood, really we don't want to do much in those areas. We want to do something uphill of those areas to keep the water from getting there. And that's where we want to do the parking lots and things like that to keep the water from getting downhill to where it floods. And that's a pretty common thing that we see throughout New Jersey. So you're in a great area here in Middlesex County. You've got a lot of opportunities here. There's a lot of different, like Woodbridge is doing some great stuff. Metuchen has put some projects in at schools. Rutgers is doing a lot of work in the Raritan watershed, so you're close to the university. So it's a lot easier for me to come here to Edison than it is to go down to Salem City, where I was the other day. So we're traveling all over the state. So it's really I'm looking forward to kind of doing some more work with you guys.
No, my concern with that maintenance is I've been in this town and like we do stuff like this. You know what I mean? We replace the floors, we replace the building.
Yeah.
What we don't do is we don't maintain things. Sonia, can you get me a list of how many times we've maintained that parking lot? If I can get that before next Wednesday's meeting?
Are you referring to Dudash?
Yes. Thank you very much. I did
Okay.
enjoy the presentation.
Anything else? Well, thanks for having me over. I appreciate it.
I do have a question, if possible.
Oh, what? Public? Public?
No, just I have a couple of
Oh, you have a-
questions, if
oh,
that's
go ahead.
okay. I tried to make sure everyone else speaks first. In regards to the effectiveness of, say, pervious pavement compared to standard dirt and grass, what type of, I guess, how efficient is it in comparison?
Well, so your typically your front lawn can absorb about a half inch to an inch of rain from your rooftop. Um, I can take your driveway and I can make your driveway porous asphalt with a stone reservoir underneath, and I can manage 6 or 8 inches of rain from your rooftop. So I can manage a lot more water. To hold the water, let it slowly percolate into the ground. My only concern is I have to keep it far enough away from your basement. I want the water going in your basement. It's going to be at 10 feet away from the house. That's an issue. We have to make sure that there's not clay or anything too shallow where it's not going to get into ground. It's going to sit there. So we have to worry a little bit about that. It's not too bad here. Down in Woodbridge, where Woodbridge Center used to be, what used to be the clay factory, right? The brick factory used to be there, the clay pits. So that's a bad area to do stuff in. And there's some clay here in Edison too. But so that's kind of how it works. And what's nice too is if you think about what's happening is water's going through the asphalt surface through the stone, and the stone is kind of filtering out the water, very similar to the way a Brita filter would do it on your faucet. So it's filtering the water, it's holding the small sediment in it. We have not seen one of these parking lots get clogged, so they tend to be very, very efficient. And depending on how much water you want to manage, is how deep you want to make the stone. There's a parking lot up in Vermont that they did at a Lowe's and a Target where you have 8 foot of stone under the parking lot, and they hold the whole 100-year storm under the parking lot, and it's just an amazing thing. And the reason they did it was because they were building this thing on like this kind of mountaintop, and they had all this extra stone. They were just shipping up the stone and using it for the stormwater system. So it was very cost effective for them, but it was a great way to store the water, and they didn't have to take up a whole another space with a big basin. So it is very very effective way of doing it. So.
Thank you. And the other question I have, well, just two questions. I saw in the pamphlet it said recommended size 100 to 300 square feet. Is there like a minimum
No,
size that you
so
shouldn't
so
go?
a rain garden is typically about 1/5 to 1/10 the size of a drainage area. So if you have 1,000 square foot driveway, your rain garden may be 150 to 200 square feet in size. So it all depends on the area that you're draining to it. We built rain gardens as small as 50 square feet. We built rain gardens as large as 1 acre. So it just depends on what you want to drain to it, and that's where the engineering comes into play. That's why us engineers make whole boatloads of money. No, probably not. So, but that's kind of where it factors in. So we need to do the calculations for that.
And do you know if the state is doing anything, say, for instance, at like the roundabouts that are under DOT jurisdiction?
Yeah, so DOT, they're using some of this technology whenever they're widening roads or putting in, jug handles, things like that. But they're not going back into the existing roadways and retrofitting them. We've had a hard time getting New Jersey DOT to take projects that they weren't required to do. So we were in Rowway along Route 27. There's Kiwanis Park there. And we built a big rain garden there. We wanted to put an inlet in from Route 27 to get the water from the highway into the rain garden. And we got such a runaround from DOT because they're worried they have to maintain this curb cut. It's a curb cut, like at the end of your driveway. What is there to maintain? Nothing. But they were nervous about that, and so they gave us a huge runaround, and it took about a year and a half to finally get them to agree to allow us to do it. So as a Rutgers professor, I try to avoid working with DOT as much as possible because my time is limited and I want to actually get things done. So, and there's other things that we tend not to do. A lot of these projects don't require permits because you're not in the floodway, you're not in the wetlands, so you don't really require permits. We often get asked to help people with projects that require permits, and we won't do that at Rutgers because I'll spend enormous amount of time working on permits when I could be in 5 or 6 other towns actually putting in projects that are going to make a difference and not have to deal with the bureaucracy of New Jersey DEP. Not that permits aren't important, but somebody else should be doing that, not me. So.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate the presentation, all of the information. I do understand there may be questions from the public, but because we do have council business to do, if it's okay, would people that may be interested in asking a couple questions, would you mind stepping out for a couple minutes so
Yeah,
they could
I can
ask?
do it out in the hall. Yeah, parking lot, whatever you want. It's fine. Thanks for having me over. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And thank you to the Environmental Commission and also thank you to the Environmental Commission for, assisting in putting this together, bringing it to our attention. It's definitely information that is well needed and that the township definitely needs to look into addressing. So thank you. At this time, I'd like to open up for oral petitions and remarks. We are going to start from the list. We're starting with Mr. Stolschel.
Walt Stoschel, 2118 Oak Tree Road. That was a great presentation. The Middlesex Greenway Coalition worked with the town and Dr. Abrapta on the Dudash Park parking lot. We got a grant to do a parking lot up by the Greenway entrance, and that fell through, and this came through. And I went out and watched them dig it out and put all the stone in, and then pave it. And then I was out there last year, and I took some water and dumped it in, and it disappears. Also, if you go out to Duke Farms in Hillsborough, there's the Raritan River Greenway that goes from the back entrance of Duke Farms to the Nevis Street Bridge in Raritan, and that's a 12-foot wide bike path that's porous pavement. I think if the town's going to do another one, we should do it at Swales Park. That parking lot needs to be redone. There's no catch basins in the park. It's a very sandy soil underneath, and that would be the perfect next parking lot to do instead of just coming in and paving it over and letting the water run off into the park. I'd like to thank everybody for the bike tour yesterday. We've done this since 1996. It was great. It was the biggest crowd ever. We had no issues. The town pulled that off with the help of Metuchen and other volunteers. It was great. And I'm really glad that we did that yesterday and leading into today with the Complete Streets resolution that you're going to have on the agenda. This is something we need. We've needed it for years. We could never get it through. It is something Metuchen's done, Plainfield's done, counties have done. We should do it here and make our streets complete, safe for bikes, walkers, and other things. So please support that. Thank you.
Council President, I'd like to ask Mr. Social a question, if you wouldn't mind. You were saying that Swales Park is, that's like a sandy type soil?
Underneath is probably going to be pretty sandy because the cemetery is pretty sandy right next to it.
But the reason why I asked that is that I went by there and there's like ponding, that was on the grass and stuff there. Where I live, we have clay. So I'm used to, in the areas where you have the clay, to see like the standing water for a couple days, you know what I mean? I would have thought the sand would have been.
Swales Park. In the park, you see ponding. Yeah, because Swales Park, from where the community garden is, west toward Germantown, is about 8 feet of compacted fill.
Oh.
Because the Public Works garage was there, and when they got stuff, they dumped it in the field.
And just compacted it.
And in 2011, we did shovel test pits to find the soil to look for artifacts. We're going to look for artifacts in the
I remember
commons.
that.
And we did metal detecting. We couldn't find anything because there's that much clay and other garbage on top of it. But the parking lot should be pretty good underneath that because that was all stone when the garage was there in the old town hall, and they just paved it piecemeal here and there over the years. The township did that when the garage was there, and to create parking for the park. So I would think if you dug it out, put the stone in, that's going to drain.
It'll drain.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Ms. Orchid.
Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. First, we'd like to thank all the volunteers that helped clean up Clara Barton this Saturday. It was a wonderful, wonderful turnout. We collected about 20 bags of garbage. Please check our website, etec@edisonnj.org, or Beautiful Edison for the next cleanup dates. On May 27th is the Memorial Day Parade at 12 o'clock. Looking forward to seeing everyone. Hopefully, it'll be better weather. For May 29th, happy Memorial Day in memory of those who gave their lives for our great country. On June 3rd is going to be the National Trails Day. Red Trail at the Peter Barnes III Preservation and Kingley Lane Cleanup. On June 4th, Thomas Edison Memorial Tower Cleanup from 9 to 12. We look forward to seeing everyone there. June 6th, don't forget to vote. June 10th is Celebrate Middlesex Day at Roosevelt Park. Also, we're going to be celebrating Freedom Day, Juneteenth, on June 10th from 12 to 8 at Lake Papiani. Looking forward to seeing everyone there. Last, don't forget the master plan meeting on May 23rd. Look forward to seeing everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Orchid. Just for anyone that does come up to speak, I was asked just to mention to please be a little closer to the microphone, just so that it picks up on the live feed. Thank you. Next on the list, Ms. Parkin.
Esther Barkin, 114 Dunham Avenue. I want to thank the council for allowing Dr. Abrupta to speak. If you go to the Langstaff Avenue where the water department is, across from the firehouse, you'll see that when they repaved, they just put asphalt all over, not any space for water to go through. And going south on 27, you'll see a lot of the stores that have no parking, so they use the sidewalks to as you know, parking spaces, and it's all covered over. So, you know, there are a lot of areas where we could make some changes perhaps in our code that would require a different kind of surface. But I also want to bring to council's attention that August will be 3 years since council approved the community energy aggregation program. And I don't know where we are with that. Every day I am hearing or reading dire predictions about the effects of climate change that are coming faster than we anticipated. And so I think we should do everything we can to reduce our use of fossil fuels. I know there's some code changes in terms of green heating, you know, sustainable energy for new construction, but we could start changing the kind of lawn equipment that we use away from gas-powered machines to battery. It may not be as quick, but we need to do that. And I just hope that we can progress with what the council had previously passed to get us, you know, as a township, more towards renewable energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bursher.
Yes, I don't know that this administration is aware, or our business administrator is aware. I mean, she's not from around here. Our mayor should well know. But we passed this energy ordinance where we're supposed to be using renewable energy. And I will tell you, I will agree, because I believe it was Sunday, a woman came to my house to get me to sign up for like green energy. And I told her, I said, we passed an ordinance in the township of Edison that we are supposed to use this renewable energy. And she said, I went and looked at your meter. There's a sticker on there that tells you that you have not done it yet. So that was one of my points to bring up in like a discussion item was, you know, why aren't we, and when will we?
May I, Council President?
Sure.
I am aware of the energy aggregation program, also having done in a different community. I will bring that up to the administration. Part of the issue, and I've faced in other communities, is that the cost is not there. It may be an opportunity for us to make sure that the cost is cost neutral and it is effective. not just a matter of being clean energy, of course, that's what we're trying to achieve here, but that it also is cost benefit to your residents.
To the business administrator, I'd just like to say, we didn't ask for you to do a cost analysis. We didn't ask for you to do anything. What I'm asking you to do is we have an ordinance that is passed, and I'm asking you to enforce it like the other laws that we have in the town. In there, you'll see that it says that you can opt out if somebody wants to opt out, but we're supposed to be like doing this here. So all I'm saying is that we pass the ordinance and we're not doing anything, and then you're talking about trying to price it out. That's supposed to, I don't think that's the township's job. I think that was the power company's job, if I'm not mistaken from the ordinance. Does anybody remember the ordinance? exactly?
Council
well-
President, I remember the ordinance because I'm the only one that was against it at that
true.
particular time. So my reasoning and my rationale was because senior people had to, each year you had to opt in. So if you were not aware, then you would get stuck with something else going on, like the people in Texas, whoever didn't have the PSE&G and they had some type of off-brand, the off-brand ran the prices up so much because it was not regulated. So that's what's my issue with the whole thing, because I didn't want senior citizens and other people who were not aware of them, and I did not want, in this day and time, a bunch of strangers coming to old people's doors, knocking on their doors saying, what type of energy would you like, third-party energy? That was my issue with the whole thing. Not that we're not saving stuff and doing that, but my issue is that we're not looking out for the whole population of people.
At this point, just because, well, does she, is
Yeah,
there time?
33 seconds.
Yeah, there's 30 seconds available, and I'm going to request council, unless it's a question directed at council, there's not going to be any more comment.
I just wanted to clarify, but
No, that's fine, for you, by all means.
yeah, I was one of the petitioners, so the original resolution would allow residents to opt out, but the township would have the contract with the supplier, so you wouldn't have companies knocking on doors. So residential customers could opt out, businesses could opt in, and then the township had to hire a consultant, which they did.
I don't want to be rude, but
Okay.
just in the
All
sake
right,
of,
well, I'm just giving you a back.
Council
Thank you.
President, Council President, I know that you asked if we could just stop, but as a councilman, unless you're looking to cut my time off on speaking on an issue, of which it'll be that Christo thing that he sent us today, that councilman, people do have a right to speak.
yeah, by all means, you can do so at the discussion items.
I'd like to talk about this. A resident asked a question, right? And
But
it's not a discussion item. It's okay for us to talk about it. But if you want to try and shut down council people, like we do on other issues in this town where we don't want to talk about things, then you do it, and I'll sue you as council president, okay? But don't tell me that I can't speak.
are you trying to intimidate me, sir?
Me?
Yeah.
What I'm telling you is that I will not give up my rights as a councilman, even though you're council president. Yes, that's what I told you. I will not give up my rights.
Which you have the right to do so at the discussion items. Thank you, sir.
This isn't a discussion item. What I'd like to say is that we, as a body, approved a bill, a law, and it's not being followed, and I'd like to see it done. Thank you, Council President.
You're welcome, sir. Next on the list, Mr. Payne.
Thank you, Thomas Paine wrote the book Common Sense. Thank you.
Yes.
Thomas Paine wrote the book Common Sense, initiated the American Revolution. No problem. Let me just zoom into on Councilman Coyle. Did you recognize me yet?
I will request name and address, understanding your rights if you, however you decide to answer.
I will never forfeit my rights. I do not surrender my rights. I will not. Fourth Amendment.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you.
Your time has started. Thank you.
And also Daniel's Law. You should assume that every person that comes to the microphone is under Daniel's law. You don't know if the person is a child of a police officer, prosecutor, judge. The law also can extend to stepchildren or even boyfriends or girlfriends living at the same home. So, you're putting this township at every time you ask someone for the name and address, you're not only putting this township at risk for civil lawsuit, but you're putting other people's lives at risk. And Daniel's law was written to prevent that. And you are the government. You as the government, I hold you responsible, like Councilman Brescher said. Follow the law. You know, that Coughlin's law firm's supposed to be the Democratic law firm. Uh, they're supposed to be showing all these towns this is the right way, this is the democratic way. Yet these people push bills in the New Jersey State Senate that they don't even follow themselves. That's absolutely disgusting. All my records requests, they refuse to give it to me. Any record request that's been given out to other people, if Christo requests it, denied. That's a violation of the 14th Amendment, equal treatment under the law. In regards to I'm so happy that you read the case law that I sent you, Montero versus the city of Elizabeth. There's been quite often times in the past where I do believe that you were intimidated by saying, you can't speak or insinuate certain things or decorum. You certainly can. In the case law that I sent you, you certainly can. In fact, in this specific case, the councilman interrupted the meeting the whole time and still won. So, you know, that means for me in my Captain Todd incident, I'm making hella money, good money off you guys. That means Councilman Deal and the old business administrator, they will not have qualified immunity. I am able to sue you guys personally, and I'm going to be going for your homes. He did not threaten you. He basically told you the fact that's on I sent you the same case law, Council President. He specifically told you you cannot violate his rights. There was no threat. He basically invited you. He said, hey, if you violate my rights and the cops remove me, you will be liable and at risk for a lawsuit. Not just the township, but you personally. He can take away your home. And what he said was actually factual. How can that be a threat, sir? It's the same way as when Miss Mary McAvoy, Sam Joshi's assistant, walked out the building today. She told some residents, yeah, they can have an appointment with the mayor. When I made a comment back to her, so every resident can have an appointment with the mayor except me, she then accused me of harassing her. She then said, no, you can come to my home and tell me these things. No, it's the opposite. If I come to your home, it's harassment. If I'm at your job and I'm asking, hey, can I have an appointment with the mayor? I mean, now it becomes quote unquote harassment. That's a violation of the 14th Amendment. Why do all these people have the right to get an appointment with the mayor, but I don't have that right? He's violating equal treatment under the law. Shame on all of you. How much time do I have left? 2.5 minutes. I'd really like to say, please, man, stop intimidating Councilman Bresch. I came here to talk about Joyce, how Joyce should be on the ticket. And now you have me wasting my time on this nonsense. Coyle never shows up to these meetings. He has a whole host of ethics complaints that I think are going to be leaked tonight to the public. And please don't shake your head, Joyce, because you know damn well you belong on that ticket. You know damn well I support you. I love you. You're the only reason I'm here, because at the end of the year, you might not be here. The rest of them are no fun. I'll hang out with you at the parties. The rest of them are energy vampires except Brescher and you. So anytime we have any party here in Edison, I'd like Joyce to host it. At the end of the year, I'd like Joyce put on the, I'd like Tony DePascal removed from the library board. I'd like Miss Joyce Ship Freeman put on the library board because she has actual experience and she's qualified to be on it. Even if I disagree sometimes with you, I'd rather hang out with you than Tony D. How much time do I have left? A minute and a half. As an Edison resident, lifelong Edison resident, to watch the council president intimidate, I feel that not just today, but many other times, Councilman Brescher was intimidated. He was retaliated against. You guys forced his wife to come here and humiliated the poor woman on live TV in front of everyone.
1 minute left.
with her husband watching. I find that absolutely abhorrent. I think this government owes Councilman Brescia an apology. Like I said, Montero versus the city of Elizabeth also applies to me. Um, Lozman versus Riviera Supreme Court ruling. I want to know why council. What are you doing, Councilman Coyle? I want to know why Councilman Coyle always ordered the police to remove me, uh, putting this town in a lawsuit. Thanks to him, I'm gonna make so much. I'm gonna be a millionaire thanks to that idiot. You understand? When I win my lawsuit, I'm gonna be Atlantic City every day, playing craps every day, and it's all gonna be thanks to Councilman Coyle because he understands the United States Constitution, but he won't follow it because of his corruption. His corruption won't allow him to follow it. He has to cover things up all the time. Shame on you, Councilman Coyle.
Council President?
Thank you. Anyone from the public that wishes to speak?
Council President, I'd like to comment.
Mr. Hahn.
Council President, I'd like to call order. I'm able to speak and to
This is
address
the-
my constituents and my residents.
Point of order.
Council President, I think you're out of order. And you know what? You have been intimidating me. The BA has been intimidating me, and I will be filing charges on the two of you for trying to threaten and intimidate a council person. That will happen, but you will not silence me unless our officers would like to remove me.
Thank you. And let that be known that that is the debate of this, because in the lawsuit that was presented to us, it was in regards to the council president ejecting a council member. I've afforded our council member over to my right the opportunity to speak on any matter that he sees fit within the discussion items, which is the appropriate time for which council members to actually address items. This is under oral petitions and remarks. It is the correct time for the public to address their comments, grievances, whatever they would like to approach.
And it is our right to speak to the public during that time, unless you're telling me that council people are not entitled to speak to the public, because that's what it looks like to me, sir. It looks like you're trying to shut down the council. You're
I
trying
call
to
for
shut
a
down
motion to
transparency.
recess. Can I get a motion to recess?
Second.
Motion for a 5-minute recess.
I motioned it.
Excuse me,
Accepted
Council President,
first.
I guess I wait till you guys come back, or? I don't want to talk about nothing on.
Council President, there's a motion that's been seconded.
I did not mean to be disrespectful to your time. In consideration, since I had already asked for Mr. Hahn to come to the podium,
I think Council President, to me, his residents waiting in the line, and if we called him, unless we all feel that we should go in recess, I said we should allow him to speak and then we can go in recess.
by all means, I
Whatever works
apologize.
for you guys.
I apologize, Mr. Hahn.
Keith Hahn, 81 Fairview Avenue. In 2019, 2020, Mayor Lanke appointed me to the Water Advisory Committee. Councilman Patil was on that committee. And during that time, we had a lot of meetings, and Mott McDonald was the engineer. And Councilman Patil could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had 17 pump stations in town that had to get fixed, and they were estimating them to be anywhere from 500,000 to $1 million. I don't make many of these meetings busy with kid stuff, but I see that recently we passed an engineering firm for $1 million to just engineer a pump station, which seems excessively high when only 3-4 years ago we were building the pump stations for 500 or $1 million. And then I see online, I don't know the business administrator, but apparently it was a no-bid contract, and her husband works for the engineering firm, which seems extremely inappropriate. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that. Council President, if anybody'd like to comment. Is anybody going to look into that? Because that is an extreme overrun. And Councilman Patil, that's what Mott McDonald was estimating, right? Somewhere between 500 to $1 million for the pump stations at that time?
Unless Council President, you want me to answer, that was the rough estimate that was given based on the condition at that point in time. Again, I'm not aware of the current condition of that pump station and the situation.
I mean, I don't know. These things have been there for 60, 70 years, however long. I don't know
Just-
how they deteriorated since
Just a point of
2019.
clarification, please pause this time. I just want to make sure that I'm clear in regards to the operation. He had asked a question, which was my initial thing. That's why I allowed the response. So
Okay.
just for clarification, please resume this time, Marlena. Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
so anyhow, in 2019, 2020, Mott McDonald estimated anywhere from 500 to $1 million. We recently gave a no-bid contract for $1 million just for the engineering work. That's not to build it. And it so happens to be, allegedly, I don't know this for sure, maybe the business administrator would like to answer or clarify it, but there's people online talking that her husband just recently got a job at the same firm, which seems highly, highly inappropriate. If anybody'd like to comment or weigh in, if she'd like to answer.
Is it a question directly for the?
Yeah, if she'd like to answer, I mean,
I will
shed
afford
some
you the
light on it. I'd
opportunity to
rather hear
speak if
from
you would
her
like
than
to.
listen to people talking about it online.
Sure. Council President, thank you. I did disclose that to the administration, the township attorney, as well as Human Resources, so that is disclosed.
Before or
Council
after the
President,
no-bid contract?
Is this a back and forth? I'm sorry. I don't,
Was
is
that
she subject to
before
this
or after the
interrogation?
no-bid contract?
Yeah. I'm
At this
Yeah,
point,
this-
I would only like
Was that
for
before or
Sonia
after the
to,
no-bid contract?
and if she doesn't wish to comment on
that's
anything
fine.
else, that's fine. But Sonia, if you would like to answer in any regard, it's up to you.
I apologize, there was a lot of back and
Yeah,
forth.
not a
What is the
problem.
question?
Not a problem.
I'm sorry, what is your question?
Did you disclose that before or after the no-bid contract was brought up?
T&M's been here before the employment.
Well,
This is a recent employment.
T&M has historically only did minimal work, maybe, in the tens of thousands. I think this is probably the biggest contract. You guys would know better than me. T&M hasn't been getting $1 million contracts last year or in previous years. I think we used CME and Mazer before that. So TME is just, or T&M has just been brought here. I'm just wondering what that time frame was and when the disclosure was.
Council President, can I
Anybody?
address this matter?
Considering it can potentially be a legal aspect? Yes,
No,
sir.
there is, and thank you. As to the, just if I could reiterate what the business administrator said, her husband's employment with T&M was properly disclosed to the administration. At that time, the business administrator recused herself from any contracts involving T&M. Some statements were made by Mr. Hahn that we can't really verify at this point, okay? He said that a contract was for greater than the amount that had been previously estimated at. We don't have any information to,
Well,
before you.
you-
If I let you speak, sir,
you
if
may
I could
not-
have the
oh,
opportunity
excuse
to
me.
finish my sentence.
You may not have the information, but the council
Council
knows who
President,
was
I
paying
don't-
for
I
the
don't-
engineering.
Point of order, we will
No,
have
no,
to,
but,
excuse me.
excuse me, Council President, if I could just say something. What he was saying was factually not true. He may not be aware of who we were paying.
He's not
in the
aware, but
engineering
it
work.
happened.
But the council people are
And
aware.
this should be
who we used.
investigated.
This is a farce, Council President. If I'm not allowed to even respond, I'm not going to say anything.
We are not going to make a mockery of this
Council
council.
President, nobody's trying to
That
make
bid was a mockery to this
Point of
council. We
order.
were not made aware.
You are not recognized, Councilman.
Nish, you voted for it, and I think you knew about the no bid contracts and you knew about the employment, and you didn't tell the rest of the council. You, my friend, are in the same boat as the administration. You have duped this council, sir.
Listen, if that was disclosed to the administration and everything.
Not to the council,
The
Mr.
council
Hahn.
who has to approve the expenditure. If I'm wrong, the administration hires the vendors for a no bid contract and the council approves paying the expense. The council people should have been aware of that conflict if they were going to approve the expenditure. Were any of the council people aware of that conflict? Did that come up to anybody? You could sit up there and roll your eyes all you want, but they should have
Yeah,
been
I'm
made
rolling my
aware.
eyes at you because you're not
No,
giving
no,
me
no,
an
no,
opportunity
no.
to respond to you, sir.
Go
Point
ahead,
of order.
Have at it.
He
I'll
knows
sit
what
here
we weren't
patiently.
told. He knows.
The speaker's time has elapsed. Thank you, Mr. Hahn.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to,
Yes, we should go into recess.
Council President, before that, can we have the lawyer explain what he was going
I-
to say, because I wanted to hear his point.
Is the published time. If there is a discussion item at that point, I will allow for that correspondence.
All right, thank you.
To maintain decorum, I am requesting a recess. Can I get a motion?
Motion to go in recess.
Second.
Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Councilmember Brescher.
No.
Councilmember Coyle.
Yes.
Councilmember Harris.
Yes.
Councilmember Patel.
Yes.
Councilmember Patil.
Yes.
Councilmember Schiff Freeman.
I'm staying out of it because I'm staying out of it.
Council President Pointer.
Yes, we are held in recess for 5 minutes. Farce. Check, council members. We're going to
Yes. No.
No, I think you just open it up. Yeah, it's not let's make sure we deal about it. All right. You can call it to order. Yeah.
At this time, the meeting is called back to order. We're going to continue, and the time, just for the record, is 7:26. At this time, I'd like to reopen it back to the public for comment. Sir?
Hi, good evening. Bruce Seitz, 88 Parkgate Drive. Good to be here tonight. Some of you know me. I've been chairman of the Cable Committee for the past 4 years. I've worked with Richie and Joyce and Joe. I pop in and out of politics. I'm a business executive, and I look at politics as, as a business, and none of you have an easy job up there. I was at the event on, this is, it's not what I'm here for today, but I just wanted to say I was up at the event where Governor Murphy was up on New Dover Road with Mayor Sam yesterday. I got to speak with him for about 2 minutes. I met him 100 years ago when he was at Goldman Sachs. And if I have time at the end, he gave a speech in the 90s about conciliation and dealing with people with diverse points of views. And I think I have it on my phone, and I could read it after, because what's going on here shouldn't be going on. Anyhow, I don't want to be the old professor here. Two things I want to talk about. One is transparency about the Cable Committee and what's going on. But before that, and this is a whole change of pace, Edison is a great town. I've lived here for 40 years, have 2 houses. I got involved with Jane Tausman years ago on the environmental committee. I've also worked to date myself with May Lensis when JFK was what we joked about, a one-room shack. I was involved in a building fund and fundraising. So I love the town. My family was raised here and everything. That being said, everybody talks about Edison being a wonderful place. It's peaceful, it's quiet, the education system is good. And I don't know if anything could be done about this because of state regulations and different ordinances, but I wanted to bring it up to the council for consideration and thought it's about a noise ordinance, okay? The town is about 30% seniors. You have a lot of people working at home now. I have clients in Europe. I'm on the phone with them 3 in the morning, and it's 9 o'clock in Germany or 8 o'clock in England, and we start off the day. And the situation with the lawnmowers and the leaf blowers and everything has gotten intolerable. The ordinance is that they start at 7 in the morning on weekdays and 8 a.m. on weekends, and a lot of us don't have to get up at 7 a.m. by loud noise. And I'm just wondering, I sent Mayor Sam a text a week ago, and I was told to bring it up to the council to see if anything could be done to raise the starting time to 9 o'clock for the comfort and well-being of the citizens versus the interest of outside contractors that come in with these loud machines. Okay, and if this could be something that the council could take under consideration. And, okay, next subject is the Cable Committee. I'd like to have a little more transparency with that. I'm not going to go from my notes. I don't need it. About a year ago, a consultant was hired. We've had numerous problems with Optimum over the years, a lot of dissatisfaction. The mayor's office going back, 2 mayors even going back to Mayor Mercigliano and with Tom Lanke, and lots of complaints of the week. Mary would be calling me. We made some improvements with Optimum, not a lot, but it's a big structured company. When Altice took them over 2 years ago, it got a little bit worse because they were a communications company, didn't know squat about cable. So we've been getting some concessions with them. It took us 6 months to get information for them to post on the website. They opened a kiosk. I complained that people didn't have to go for a remote or a cable box all the way out to Piscataway and spend an hour traveling. They opened the kiosk before COVID started. They had to shut it down. They opened up the new store in Wick Plaza in Edison. Joyce was involved with that, and they're trying. The complaints are really down to very few a week. We set up a direct line where if somebody calls Mary or me, we give them the number of Marilyn, and they work on it and get back with responses in 24 hours. That being said, there's still complaints about the rates, changes, and everything. We tell a lot of the people that they should ask for the resolution department, and what they've been doing lately is to, pardon the expression, shut the complaints up, give somebody an extra couple of channels on Cinemax or a few of the other HBO or whatever. So we're getting concessions. There's still a lot to be done. There was a contract signed, I believe, Richie, if you could help me on that, 15-year contract around 2014 going through 2026.
Sir, not to be rude, but the time has elapsed. You did ask 2 questions. You asked clarification
Okay.
from Mr. Brescher, and as well whether the council would consider
Do I have, how much time do I have left?
that was the 6-minute mark,
You're out of
which
time,
at that
sir.
point is the
I'm
allow.
sorry?
The time has elapsed. We allow,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
6-minute time frame.
Could I just make one closing statement?
To be fair amongst everyone, to keep the
Okay.
rules fair amongst everyone, unfortunately, no.
I just want to talk about the cable committee.
Sir,
being
I really don't wish to call you out of order, but at this
Okay,
moment,
I'll bring it up next meeting.
thank you, sir. In regards to the 2 questions that were asked, whether taking into the updating the time when business can start, or since it was asked about the cable committee, offer opportunity for comment.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you.
Bruce, I do know that you're going to see a new study here that I think the council and the residents need to digest. That's just on our agenda now, to do with like broadband, because that's what I believe the problem here is. When we get to that line item, you'll see I'm going to ask the business administrator for certain information that I think we're missing for us to do our due diligence on this. But right now we have Optimum and Comcast, right? And Optimum, to be honest with you, I've followed the complaints, that you've been working on, and they are substantially less. I believe it's because they're actually switching over from the copper to the fiber, which they installed. So that is good news for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Diamond?
Bruce Diamond, Calvert Avenue West. I saw
Not to be rude, if it's okay to lift the mic up, just because I know the feed. Thank you, sir.
No worries. Don't interrupt old people. I saw the complete street thing on the agenda. I hope you go pass it. I think it's a big thing for the town. I'm curious about the budget process. Once the town comes up with the budget, they have to send it to the state for approval before it can be submitted to you? I know you don't want to have a discussion, but is it a yes or no?
I'm not.
Yes. Okay, so presuming you've already submitted it to the state, when are we getting it back and when are you going to submit it?
To our, sorry, to our,
I'm going to let the BA answer this.
The budget hasn't yet been submitted to the state. It has to get approved by council first.
thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other first-time speakers? Sir? Or ma'am, sorry. Or they?
Jennifer Ryan,
Sorry.
161 Hillcrest Avenue. I just want to give my strong support for the complete streets policy that I hope you will pass. I think that we need to make Edison much safer for all bicyclists and pedestrians, particularly around the train stations. Are you signaling for me to speak into the microphone? Sorry about that. Should I say what I said again or no?
No, it's fine, but I can hear you.
You okay? The Edison Bike Tour gave us a nice tour around town without fear of being hit by a car. And we would like to have that experience all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other first-time speakers? Any rebuttals?
Thank you. Am I recognized?
Yes, you're recognized. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to, even though I agree with everything Mr. Keith Hahn had to say, there are some things I disagree, such as he gave his address and you didn't stop him. Today we violated Daniel's law. One question I have is when we all leave from here, is Edison TV going to censor his address from Edison TV now? Now that I brought it to your attention that we violated Daniel's law in order to keep police officers safe, are you going to censor the name and address? You could put somebody at his home at risk. But he said an address and I'm against that. He said his address. Everything else I agree with. But yeah, I would really like in the future, because everything I do, for whatever reason, everyone thinks I'm making a mockery out of something. But I hope in the future, Mr. Keith Hahn will also defend the Daniels law every time he comes up here, because people look up to him, they listen to him, and maybe they'll take Daniel's law and the Fourth Amendment more serious if it would come out of his mouth rather than my mouth. But yeah, like I said, you guys, like Councilman Brescher said earlier, you need to follow the laws that are already on the books, not go against them. How much time do I have left, Marlena?
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half. Back in 2019, I had recorded Mr. Hahn, Mr. Tingle. They both came up here. They gave their names and addresses. It was on my YouTube. 1 year later, a tragedy happened. Daniel's law came in effect. Mr. Hahn, Mr. Tingle might not know this, but right after Daniel's law came in effect, I deleted that video from my YouTube because they said their names and addresses. Are you guys going to go back and censor their names and addresses? I find it absolutely
1
abhorrent.
minute left.
I find it absolutely abhorrent that you guys aren't assuming that everybody falls under Daniel's law, and you do it for intimidation purposes. How many seconds?
47 now.
47? God bless America. Please take the Fourth Amendment more serious. Please take Daniel's law more serious. It's deadly serious because people have lost their lives. That's why it was put into effect. Please assume that everybody coming up here falls under Daniel's law, and you shouldn't have to even do that. Even if there was no Daniel's law, you're still violating the Fourth Amendment. But you're not just going against federal law, you're going against New Jersey state law. So Daniel's law strengthens the Fourth Amendment, so you don't respect the Fourth Amendment, you don't respect federal law, you don't respect Daniel's law, you don't respect New Jersey state law. What laws do you respect? Are there any laws out there that any of you respect? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? Mr. Hahn?
Keith Hahn, 81 Fairview. I just wanted to come back up that we got cut short, but everybody always says, and I hear from the elected officials up here, that the public always needs to come to the council meetings and speak up and everything. And the way you guys are acting up here in the chaos and just the juvenile behavior, I don't know why anybody from the public would want to come here and deal with this. So you guys need to clean up your act and everything if you expect the public to actually engage and want to come here and bring issues forward. With that being said, if I could make to the attorney, I OPA requested, I know everything has to go through you guys for OPA requests, so there's no confusion next time. I OPA requested all the bills from Mott McDonald, T&M, CME, and Mazer from 2019 till current. So hopefully you could approve that and I could have it for the next meeting so we know what we're talking about. We can't say they didn't get any bills. With that being said, if you guys could all consider, if we're going to give out $1 million no bid contracts, maybe, and there's a conflict or, you know, somebody's related to somebody working there, why don't we just put it out for bid? And that takes all of this out of there's no problem. If you just put it out to bid, nobody's complaining about T&M getting a contract because her husband works there. But when she's in the administration and she decides who gets the no bid contract, do any of you, am I the only one that sees the inherent conflict there? Do any of you guys see that conflict? That she's in charge of picking the company that gets $1 million contract and they hire her husband after they've only been doing small amounts of work to a 7-figure contract? That's just my suggestion. Strongly consider putting that. Mr. Attorney, I mean, you could sit up there and roll your eyes. You look like you don't even want to be here. Like it's a problem that I'm speaking. Why would the public want to come up here and talk when you sit up there making faces at us? Seriously. You know, I'll leave it at that. If you could just consider 7-figure contracts where there's a conflict, putting it out to bid. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Any other rebuttals? First-time speakers? Do I get a motion to close the public portion?
Motion to close public portion?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, reports from all council committees. I'll start from my left. Councilwoman Ship Freeman.
Okay, the Human Relations meeting it was a very good meeting, and we discussed the long bicycle ride in the tribute, and the one of the officers that was there that took the ride all the way down to DC was the camaraderie between the police officers, because it was so deep and filling with them, because they still were able to ride for somebody. They still had life. So when other people think that their job is like an easy job or whatever, it's not. Being a police officer, every day you put that uniform and you walk outside, you don't know what's going to happen. So I applauded them. And another part about the Human Relations Committee, they've asked, maybe I'll email and stuff, maybe I'll get information that way. They've asked for line items. It's like the Environmental Committee, they have a logo on their shirt. Now, the Human Relations Committee, they could be places and nobody knows who they are. Plus, we're still short-staffed on the Human Relations Committee, and these people want to do great things. So it's very important that we address things like the Human Relations Committee, because in all the rest of the towns surrounding us, they're thriving, just to say that. And also, at the Housing Authority, we're still screaming, we're still yelling behind RAD, the information, because people don't know. When you put stuff on the back burner, you put it on the back burner, it goes up from 800,000 to 100,000 to 120,000. You can't, that's what it disturbs me, that people keep pushing stuff on the back burner, all right? The next thing is our jazz committee. I've sent letters, and the people who are actually in charge of the whole procedure, in which we're supposed to be the premier lead off for the jazz for Middlesex County, because they've let the other one go, the other New Brunswick project now. I've asked over and over again, and I've asked them, and they've sent a letter, and they sent information. Next, I'll do a GoFundMe page, and that's how I'll get $1,000. I'll get a GoFundMe page. Then I can get the information and stuff out to the community, because I felt like Edison leading off and we be in the front page of the whole jazz event, all right? It would be exciting because I want them to know that our town does have culture. I think it's very important that we have that, all right? And the other meeting is not until tomorrow, so I don't have any meeting information from the master plan committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Patil?
Thank you, Council President. I'll be very brief on the Public Advocate Committee. We met last Thursday. The ideas or the points were brainstormed. The draft ordinance was shared among all the committee members, and probably Councilman Brescher can talk about the next steps about that. I will leave it there. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Councilman Patel?
Just for the billboard committee, uh, just following up on the design criteria, which was presented to Hank, and Hank was supposed to talk to Charlie. So just getting a timeline on it, Hank?
I heard from Charlie today, and he's finalizing his report with the electronic stuff that we were talking about, the Kona Vision and the LED stuff. So you should hopefully have it soon. All right, sir?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Council Vice President Harris?
Yes. The Library Board met on May 9th at 7 p.m. And in the President's report, it was announced the promotion of Kathy Gorman to the Principal Library Assistant. The bookmobile routing is going very well. North Edison construction, there will be some modifications being made to what the original design was. Good news is that the relocation during construction could be minimal with this new design. Lastly, in the Finance Committee, it was reported that there's a resolution was made to send out for an RFP for a financial expert to review financial documentations provided to the library for the township to clarify the fees needed to pay for services provided by the township. That's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle's not here. Councilman Brescher?
Yes, for the public advocate, we are going to make some minor adjustments. We're going to submit it to the attorney and to the council body, so the council body can review it, and we'll look for the attorney to give his input on it in case something needs to be tweaked or changed or here for art thou. Then we also had a meeting for the Amazon committee. We talked about they have a noise complaint there. We all know they have noise. We all know that the noise is above the decibel levels that are acceptable by New Jersey standards. We asked the administration if they would hire a sound engineer. I was told that the administration didn't really want to go down that road of hiring a sound engineer. So therefore, you don't have facts, right? So the only thing possible for us to do at this time would be to make a change in our ordinance, because the people in charge with enforcing the ordinance is our health department. But our health department doesn't work while these loud noises are taking place. So we were recommending that we change the ordinance to include the police department. Now, I did do some looking into that, and because our police officers would have to be trained and they'd have to be certified in a noise meter. But it's not a hard thing. It's a couple-day class that could be taken, and they could do that for officers that we have at night. It's probably the cheapest route. I don't know that it matters, though, because looking at the size of Amazon, I would say that they would just pay the fines. You know, if it was a $100 fine a day, they'll pay it every day. And we'd end up having to get our attorney involved at the end of the day, like we did with Abel. So it would be a mess. I mean, that was my reason for hiring a sound engineer, because a sound engineer can get decibel levels down to whatever you need to. Depends on what the cost was. But so we'll be putting forward to make a recommendation that we change this ordinance so that our police can enforce it. But they'd also need the training before they could actually go out there and do that enforcement. That would be it. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle, did you have any committee reports?
None, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And for myself, the Smart City Advisory Committee met last Thursday to start reviewing the presentation for the council and the administration. And think it was last Wednesday, we met for the deer population ad hoc committee. We discussed several items that the township could consider in regards to not just action items from what's available, but ordinance changes. So right now we are doing some information gathering. I know myself, Councilman Brescher were there, department directors from DPW, Health, Chief of Staff Bob Deal was there. I know Mr. Diamond was there, and a couple of Mr. Abella. So we are currently in the information gathering phase, just because the presentations that were previously done were 2018 and 2019. So we're trying to update it to today's environment. Thank you. At this point, we'll move on to points of light. Does anyone have any points of light?
Yes, Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President Harris.
Yes, first of all, I attended the promotion ceremony of several of the firefighters in the Edison Fire Department. Among them were, and congratulations go out to Joseph Gall, who is now the Deputy Chief, Captain Michael Pellegrino to the rank of Battalion Chief, Captain Richard Schreck to the rank of Battalion Chief, firefighter Andrew Drebich to the rank of captain, and firefighter Brian Visadamini to the rank of captain. And I want to congratulate all of them. They're doing us proud. The other point of light is the Walt Stoschel mentioned before, and that was the mayor's tour, the 24-mile bike ride, which I took part in yesterday. And we could not have asked for more perfect weather. And in fact, Walt said to me before that every year that this has been done since 1996, there has not been rain. It's been perfect weather every single time. It was really and I want to commend especially our police department, who had great leadership for us, kept us safe. It was headed up by Sergeant Keith Jackson, who was at the head, and so many other police officers who were around and stationed at various other points. We had the people who were the biking police that were amongst us. We had the EMS, Raritan Valley Rescue, I believe, was amongst us riding along, and it was pitch perfect. We had stop points along the way, and the leadership of the police department was superb. It's a real shout out to them. And I surprised myself. I did the entire 24 miles. So I don't know if I'll have that in me again, but it was a great day. So I want to thank everybody who made that happen. We had, by the way, as Walt said, it was a record number. We had 200 people who came out for this. So this was, it was just superb. Lastly, just wanted to point out, and I was remiss in not pointing it out in the last meeting, that this is, and especially I'm very remiss because I'm a mental health practitioner, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I just wanted to point that out too. Thank you, Council President.
Council President?
Yes, Councilwoman Schiff-Freeman.
Council President, along with I, went to the marker down at the boat basin, which was great. It was a beautiful ceremony, and you couldn't ask for a more beautiful day at all. And I just thought it was so beautiful when Mayor Cohen got up and spoke. 'Cause he spoke as like a team player. He said, I would like to thank the mayor. He said, and I would like to thank the council from Edison, which was very refreshing to hear somebody say, I would like to thank the council also. But it was beautiful on that day, and we had a young student from the school participate, and they let us know they had over 700 battles here in New Jersey. So stay tuned. We'll be getting more markers along our water. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points of light?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patil.
Yeah, it's wonderful news for Edison, New Jersey. A team of 6 men and women traveled from Edison, New Jersey to participate into the Mallakham World Championship. The Mallakham is a sport, a new sport, which is played, it's kind of an aerial yoga, either on the static wooden pole or on the rope. The result of that World Championship, especially for us here in Edison, the men team won the silver medal in the team championship. as well as the women team as well won the silver medal in the team championship. There are various participants. They also won the bronze medal, and I will just read out their name. For the pole short set is a Dhin Jayadevan, pole long set, rope short set, rope long set, all of these three categories. Advait Kulkarni, he won the bronze medal. And Advait Kulkarni also won the bronze medal in all around championship. In the women category, for the pole short set, pole long set, Rucha Kulkarni won the bronze medal, the two medals. For the rope short set, Gargi Patil, she won the bronze medal. For the rope long set, Apurva Chowdhury won the bronze medal. And all around championship, Rucha Kulkarni won the bronze medal. Again, heartily congratulations. It's kind of putting the Edison name on the map of the world. So it's again, this council should recognize this wonderful team, and hopefully we can do that, not the Wednesday council meeting, but the following council meeting. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, and if you can, just send the clerk the information.
I will.
Thank you. Or was that the?
Yeah, we already.
Oh, it was the same, okay.
Yeah, I
So,
already gave them the information, so they should be restarting that.
my-
Same thing?
Same
oh,
thing.
my apologies. So yes, it's in the works. Councilman Coyle?
I just want to piggyback back on Council Vice President Margaret Harris and Mental Health Awareness Month. I just think it's truly important. I want to thank those who are involved and as professionals that are out there in mental health. It's truly sometimes a subject we quickly forget until it's an episode or a situation. And those who are in that profession, thank you for the work you do and the time you take out. You can't be everywhere. But my mother suffered from bipolar manic depression, and it's just important stuff. It really is. But more important, those who are out there in sports and their coaches helping kids. I mean, you're a part of all different levels of mental health for children, adults, and parents, keeping people busy. You're a part of the day-to-day keeping people healthy. So mental health doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a serious breakdown in life, but there are all types of anxiety that professionals deal with that is not in my wheelhouse every day, but I witnessed it, growing up since the age of 4. And it's just important. I hope each one of us can do something in mental health and just be kind or just help someone else. It just plays it forward, and it's an important role we all play. We're driving in traffic today, and it's just crazy how people just drive and everybody's upset who's passing who, and when we drive, there's a lot of anxiety just itself going back and forth to work, which I can't understand some days how people are driving in a race to get to the traffic light. But I hope we continue to do more, and I'm looking forward to that, and it's important to me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Councilman Patel?
I also want to piggyback off the mental health. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Let us break the stigma and start treating mental illness with the same urgency and care as any other medical condition. This Mental Awareness Month, let's make conscious effort to prioritize our mental well-beings and offer support to those who may be struggling. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. And as a pharmacist, I can tell you the best medicine for mental health is exercise, which leads me to my next point, which is May is also a National Bike Month, and we just had one of our biggest bike tours in Edison history yesterday. And I'm proud of the council that we will be introducing complete street design policy, which will hopefully make Edison more bikeable and lead to better health for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other points of light? I know I usually have upcoming meetings and more of a robust schedule, but I do not have that available to me at the moment. I will make sure to announce those on Wednesday's meeting during my council president remarks. But just a reminder that the Memorial Day Parade is this Saturday, May 27th at 12 p.m. The route will be starting at Plainfield Avenue, beginning at Division Street and ending at Lindenau Elementary School. Any other? Did I mispronounce it?
No.
Oh.
No, that was good.
Any other points of light? Seeing none, we'll move on to the agenda. 8, from the business administrator. A, resolution authorizing the use of competitive bidding for consultant for municipal broadband, and B, resolution awarding contract purchase orders for various technology supplies, $35,000. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Council Vice President Harris.
On 8A, the resolution authorizing competitive bidding for consultant for municipal broadband, while I'm very happy that the study has finally been released, I'm really miffed and bewildered that the study was completed on October 7th of last year. And so we're 7.5 months when I've been asking, where the public has been asking, and I, on behalf of the public, have been asking about what's going on, when are we going to get this? And it was put off and put off. And at it might have been the last council meeting that when I put it again to you, the business administrator, you looked at me like I had 3 heads when I asked about it, as if you had not heard, you didn't know what I was talking about. And lo and behold, I find on this agenda, oh, here it is, the complete October 7th, 2022 study. And I really need to know, I think we all deserve some kind of explanation for this. One of the reasons that I'm particularly miffed is not only just having asked for this information for quite some time, but municipal broadband was one of the items that our council team, when we were running for council along with Mayor Joshi, we were selling that to the public. And I don't feel good about that and this delay under those circumstances, but I especially, on behalf of the residents here, I especially don't appreciate the fact that this has been out there for so long, and now, 7.5 months later, it has gotten released. So I would like some kind of explanation for this, please.
It's my understanding, Council President, if I may?
Yes.
That at their direction, the administration, Mayor Sam Joshi, that we're on to the next steps of creating a business plan. In order to do that, that's why the RFP is out for the broadband. In addition to that, the study was released.
Then for the competitive bidding for the consultant, it's as I understand it, the study did not indicate really either a yay or a nay in terms of its usefulness for the town. It didn't seem to come to any real conclusion about it. So I guess I need a better definition of what this consultant would be all about under the circumstances.
Are you referring to the old consultant with the study that?
No, I'm talking about the resolution, the resolution that's on here on 8A.
Sure, it would be to design an actual business plan for the broadband itself.
Okay, I remain, I don't even know what word to use on this. I remain upset about the fact that this thing just popped out all these months later. It seems like a terribly, terribly long period of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Freeman.
My whole problem with this whole thing is that I don't know that it's serious, because it seemed like we only bring it out in election time. That's why, and I understand what Vice President Harris says about this. If we're only going to bring it out when it's election time, we got to do better than what we're doing. We know what the price of broadband and all that. I want us to be serious about stuff. I don't want us just to bring up stuff to bring it up, because you know what? It's an embarrassment to me when our constituents ask me, what is your real goal for that? Which direction are you really going in that? Because the last time we asked for this stuff, they say, hey, you got Comcast. Cable, I know, most people 40 and under, because I got a lot of nieces and nephews, they're not into cable at all. And they're into totally different. But my whole problem is that, I don't have a problem with it sitting in October and stuff, but don't bring it out every time there's an election and like tease people like we're getting something that we're not getting. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other comments or questions?
Council President.
Yes, Councilman Patil.
Being the part of the Cable Vision Committee, in fact, I concur sentiment of my council vice president. I did anticipate the release of the study long back, but honestly, I didn't get a chance to look at that entire packet yet. But this is something we'll come back on for the voting on Wednesday. I'll have to digest that information, what it means. But having said that, the technology has evolved since we started talking about the municipal broadband. Yes, no, we have 5G internet from T-Mobile, from Verizon. Uh, Hopefully, the Comcast will be rolling their line shortly. So holistically, we'll have to look into all the aspects whether this is going to be viable and feasible project from the long-term standpoint of view. And again, I may be wrong, but again, there has to be a lot due diligence needs to be done. And I think that may be the reason that we are putting out for the bid to understand the nitty-gritty of that. But I was a little bit curious on what was the survey sentiment from the resident was, whether people were in favoring the municipal broadband or what percentage of that, and of course the details of the study. I will leave it there, Council President. Once I read through the packet, I will definitely come back with more questions.
Thank you, sir. And just to offer to all my colleagues up here, I did create an overview of it because I know it's 41 pages. If you would like a copy of it, it's just a more formatted highlight of the study.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brusher.
Yes, I'd like to echo a disappointment, whether it be with the business administrator or the administration, because I asked 6 months ago for a release of the study. I was told by the business administration that they were reviewing this. So they've had this, and they haven't released this to us. What I'm here today requesting is, there were two things I believe we paid for. The one was like a survey to see how people felt about it, like my council colleague brought up. I'd like to see the raw data from the survey. And I'd like the council and the people to understand that I have reservations, right, about no big contracts at this point and things like that moving forward. So when I get this survey here, right, I don't know that this data is correct because I didn't see the data that they gave us. They summarized it, right, which is nice if you're going to take it as fact. So I'd like to see the actual survey that went out and the responses that were received back, so then I can correlate them to this study to make sure that this study is actually 100% factual before we, put that out there. And I'd like to have that before our next meeting. I mean, you obviously have it, right? Since you obviously had this, which means it's only a matter of you going into your computer, pulling up the email, and sending it to me. If it's anything that I can't get it by tomorrow, then it's lack of transparency on the business administrator and the administration at this point. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? For myself, as I mentioned, I created an overview of it, which I will share with my colleagues just to help digest the information. In regards to my understanding as to what the consulting service would help tackle, when you're looking at the deployment of fiber optics, there's a couple ways to go about it. You have the main hub, where the central hub, where all of it originates from. You have the wires that are laid out that provide the eventual service to the residents, businesses, or other entities. And then you have the actual equipment that takes those wires and transmits it into everything else. The consulting firm, to my understanding, would analyze what would the best approach be for Edison. Is it being the ISP, which is the internet service provider? Is it just owning the actual equipment itself? With the equipment, would it be just the materials that the township would situate with and then contract out the actual installation of it? Or vice versa with the ISP aspect, does the township want to offer that as a potential service? The study also showed a couple options as to how the fiber optics can be installed. There are more newer approaches such as micro-trenching, which could affect the cost of the overall cost. And the other thing, in regards to what was provided from the financials, it's figured as all-in-one. It has it under the capital expenditures as if you were to do the entire township. But I do not believe that the initial rollout, if the township does go down this path, would be to do the entire township all at once. One, from a financial standpoint, and two, from setting a subscriber base. So I just wanted to state that for the published reference. I do believe that municipal broadband is the way for the township to go. We have increases in technology and advancements in technology are going to require additional bandwidth, not just from the sense of the capacity of upload and download speeds, but eventually we're going to have to look at our electrical infrastructure, because the more computing that is done, the more energy that is used. If you look at how crypto, for instance, is formulated, that's a perfect example. So I think with the advancements in technology, this is definitely something that the township needs to consider and move forward with, not just for the residents, which this study focuses on, but for businesses, for education, for health services, and the other entities and industries that this may not have covered. Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
I also want to say I was disappointed with the timing of this release, but I was looking into the 5G internet that's available, and the realistic speed that the 5G gives us is around 250 Mbps and upload about 25 Mbps. With this municipal broadband, we are looking at the top speed of 10 gigabits upload and 10 gigabits download. So we are significantly better than anything that 5G can offer. The other issue is that with each passing day, the amount of demands we have on the data is increasing. We have a higher refresh rate of TV. We have 8K now, and all of that will increase the demand on the amount of data that we will be transmitting. So I think it's urgent that we do ultimately own these lines. We don't necessarily need to service, but we should own these lines, especially with the data that the study provides. I believe it's, Ken, if you can help me out, is 50 million after we completely roll out in 10 years' time. We should be looking at around 50 million coming to the town. So we should be looking at around 50 million coming to the town in a decade's time. I think this is a great investment for long term and for the future. Thank you.
Council President, can I ask a question? I mean, I'm not an IT kind of expert or anything in this, but Nish, when you were saying that 5G only gives you 250 and the other thing's going to give you 1,000 or whatever, and I'm not talking about for your computer programmer, right, that's working from home now. I'm just saying for your average resident that is going on Netflix and streaming, what do they need for that?
All right, so a regular resident, depending on, let's say, Edison has a lot of, per household, let's say we have 4 people on average. If each person is streaming 4K, we're easily looking at maxing out the download speed. Now, in terms of the upload speed, it doesn't matter much for the resident, but for a commercial property, if you are a business and you want to host servers, which is, I believe, is the future of pretty much everything. We're becoming more digital society. It's very important that you have a great upload speed. And having that great upload speed in town would be more attractive to businesses to come in here, and especially the stability that the municipal broadband will provide.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying people don't want it. What I'm saying is for your average person, so if the township has 100,000 residents, right, 80,000 residents are probably like me. We're not uploading War and Peace type of thing. So if your average person like me who has, let's say, a husband, wife, and 2 kids, on 5G, could we all watch TV in our home?
Sure, right now you can. But if you look at the data from, let's say, 10 years ago to now, the amount of increase that you need has significantly went up. If 8K comes in, you might not be able to. You will have to degrade your quality. That 8K TV you'll be getting, you might not be able to watch in 8K quality. You'll be watching it in 4K, maybe 1080p. So yes, you can watch it, but you'll have a degraded experience.
But let me ask you a question. So, okay, and I'm just going through what I went through. Um, I used to download like a hotspot on my phone, right, and watch TV. Then I got 5G, just as of like a year ago, or maybe it was a year and a half ago. So that has upgraded. So so your wireless technology, I mean, you acknowledge uh, upgrades tremendously year over year, and those are those corporations taking on that expenditure.
So the 5G bandwidth, there's also a limitation. Like if I'm sure if all your neighbors try to get on to Verizon 5G, if I think that's what you have, they will deny them because they can't sustain the speed. So let's say if 100 people got on that 5G bandwidth, they can't sustain the speed for all 100 houses. So they will limit it to, let's say, 10 houses got it here, and that's it. They're gonna lock it down.
Okay, so that's we're at our limit with 5G. They're never going to be able to upgrade the 5G to where all my neighbors can all be on 5G.
Yeah, especially at the high peak volume, and if everyone's working from home, and if you're downloading, let's say,
No, I'm not talking about the programmer
you
guys
might not be,
uploading.
but a lot of people are working from home now, so the amount of requirements for download, I download 1 GB files all the time. That if everyone's doing that, that will really limit what you can do in town. And if that is the limiting factor, residents will look elsewhere where they can get better service.
Oh no, I didn't understand. I thought 5G was something that would progress and get better and better and better. But you're saying that we're at our peak, and where 5G is as far as wireless, we're never going to really get any better with that from the
Theoretically, they say you can get really far. If you look at realistically, there's always hindrance, especially with wireless. If you ever call your cable company and they say, "Do you have wireless router?" and they'll say because of the hindrance of anything that's blocking the Wi-Fi signal will decrease the amount of speed and the upload speed that you're getting, and they're gonna just raise their hand that this because it's wireless.
May I ask you a question? They're laying off IT people. They're using less amount of people. Before they used to need 100 people. For now, 4 people do that job. So with that, because I started back, I was talking to the council president this morning. I started back with AOL, ring, ring, when we went up to that point. And as each year, as we go and move forward at all, my only instinct with the whole thing is he saying it's only 15 million that we're going to sustain in building places? Because I was on the library board over so many years ago, and we were doing hot spots like 10 years ago. We were doing the hot spots. So we've progressed right along constantly the whole time. And I got to tell everybody, the only thing I see really disappearing a lot is television. You can buy one like $200 now, and it can be like a 80 on the wall, because I don't see people in that television vein as much as I see them. I know because a lot of people who work from home, and they're trying to get people to go back to work. But within our school system and stuff, I know that we're going to need extra help for them, for the school, because the buildings and everything that we built is built so long ago. It's not so much as that we need all these different things. It's the buildings we have. These buildings, schools and all that have been built like over 50 years ago, need to be equipped to receive the 5G right now. Like we're an infrastructure problem is more so what we have.
I believe, Council President, one of the school is upgrading their internet, right?
So I can't give the specifics, but I recall, I think it was 2 Board of Education meetings ago, they are looking to upgrade their, well, broadband's a broad term, for lack of better words, in the sense of just access to internet. I believe that they are looking to do so, but I don't know the specifics off the top of my head. Sorry.
But ultimately, I believe that we should approve this because I'm looking at it financially. I would rather keep that 50 million in 10 years than give away that 50 million to the broadband companies that don't really serve the town.
Thank you. I would point out, though, if what I believe I said is accurate, we have other opportunities to help fund this because we can partner with the Board of Education, say, hey, instead of whatever the amount was, I think it was like 5 or 10 million, instead of you guys just doing it for one specific location, let's partner together to help deploy it to a much wider area, just as a potential opportunity. And to Councilman Brescher, one of the items on the study, it's under market technology overview. There's a link for the FCC website, which goes through the download speeds for individuals, which I think you'll find interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to review this and that other documents. I mean, the troubling part was the administration spent 8 months or whatever it's been, reviewing this, and we get it on Friday, right? It's kind of complex. We're missing the backup data, and we want to move forward. So that's the issue I had. It's not so much with broadband. It's with how they intend on rolling stuff out is basically the problem. The broadband could be a good thing. We don't know. We don't know. You're basing your decisions that this information that we received here is all the information and it's all true and factual. So where I'm going is I'd like to verify that because I thought we would have gotten the raw data, we would have digested it, they would have put together a summary, which is more like what this is, right? And you kind of move forward with stuff like that, not just dropped on the desk and hey, vote on it and let's go do it. Because what I do notice that I'll save that for discussion item. Thank you.
Council President, point of order. Can we just move forward on this subject?
Yes.
Just in respect to those who are listening, and it's almost like they're grown into committee on this. I do appreciate it. I'm just asking you the request.
No issue. If there are any questions in regards to the study, I offer all my colleagues to please reach out to me because I did read it and put a shorter form together.
Councilmember, I think they were asking for quantitative and qualitative
Understood.
data.
Just in addition, just offering in addition. All right, so at this point, we'll move on to 9, Department of Finance. A, report of disbursements through May 18th. B, resolution authorizing refund for redemption of tax sales certificates. And C, temporary emergency appropriations for municipal water and sewer and sanitation. Sorry, so at this point, for those 3 items, A through C, any comments or questions?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brescher.
In A, I noticed line items, and there were maybe 20 line items, let's say. I didn't see one for legal. Was legal in there for disbursements?
I don't recall on this particular one. Oh, actually, no, there were a couple for legal on here.
Okay.
I don't recall the exact page number, but I can pull it up if you'd like.
Yeah, no, I want to vote no on legal from now on until I can get documentation from legal.
Understood.
That I feel comfortable that then I can approve their bills. And the resolution for the temporary emergency budget appropriations, again, I talked about that. That was, we don't have a budget yet, right? There's nothing for us to look at. So, I mean, months ago, I stated that I wouldn't be voting for temporary budget appropriations, and I was assured we'd have a budget. And, well, the administration and the business administrator haven't presented me with one yet. So, when they would like, they'll get my vote. I know that they have a bunch of yes votes, so I'm sure they have plenty to pass whatever they may need. But like I said, I was told I was going to receive it, right? And here I sit today, and it's May, and I haven't received it. So that would be it, Council President.
Thank you. Just because I realized that I did not include one of the resolutions, which was refund caused by successful tax court appeal. I apologize about that. And Councilwoman Schiff Freeman.
I just would like to know just how much does it cost us every time the lawyer reviews an Oprah request? Because we've had this before, and the clerk is always just, state laws, everything says the clerk is supposed to be in charge of it. So I just would like to know the cost that it costs us each time a lawyer looks at an Oprah request, because some of the Oprah requests, yeah, some of the Oprah requests are just so rudimentary, it's so mundane. So I just want to know how much I'm paying for each Oprah request being reviewed. Just a question.
Thank you. Just in regards to this disbursement report, I believe there are line items for the specific items that were attended to. But
So Oprah requests
not
specifically.
in regards to that specific cases.
I would like to see a specific, now, you don't have to show me the cases, you just can put Oprah 200, Oprah 300, and you can just put, I don't need to, you can black out all the stuff, I just want to know what is costing me for each Oprah request.
Understood, thank you. Any other comments or questions? For myself, just in regards to the temporary emergency appropriations, when you break down the numbers as to what is being appropriated in comparison to last year's, the other expenses line item would be equal to, I believe, near all of them are near to the 50%, which would cover up to half of the year. In addition, this is bringing up salaries pretty much to the 50% mark, some of them a little bit more, up to 55%. So to me, this is not going out of bounds in regards to the actual appropriations. Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President Harris.
Yes, I just want to register for the record with regard to the budget, and this is kind of piggybacking on what Councilman Prescher said, that I'm very disappointed that the release of this budget is so late. We're over a month late. I don't like that this is something that has to wait until after the primaries. That makes it look, it's a bad look. It's very bad optics. And so I just want to register my disappointment about the fact that this isn't released earlier and that we're having to look at these temporary, the emergency appropriations. Thank you.
Thank
Council
you.
President,
Yes, Councilman Coyle.
I just want to share that the last administration, and for the time I've been on the council, we didn't get a budget or vote on it until November. Just want to share that it was very, very late with Mayor Lanke. I just wanted to share that. I'm not ignoring the fact that we want a new way, bringing it early in, but Mayor Lanke, we got it in like September. By the time we sorted it out, we didn't vote till about October. Just sharing that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move to 10, Department of Health. A, resolution.
Right? How do you say there's a difference between?
Point of order.
Thank you. 10, from the Department of Health. A, resolution to receive grant funding through the New Jersey Department of Health Childhood-Led Exposure Prevention Program in the amount of $84,054. B, resolution increases permissible expenditures to Garden State Veterinary Services for period of August 1st, 2022 to July 31st, 2023, $35,000. And C, resolution authorizing application to lead grant assistance program. Any questions or comments?
Yes, Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President Harris.
10B, I love animals. Everyone who knows me knows how much I love animals, and I'm very sympathetic to the cause. But 33% increase to Garden State Vet, where is that coming from? Why is that? That's a very big increase.
Thank you. Just a request to the administration. I believe we have 3 service contracts for veterinary services. If we can just get what the expenditures are for those 3 so that we can see what the total amount is, because My understanding is that this is the Garden State Veterinary Service in Iselin, so it may be more convenient for us to go there because of a proximity standpoint. And if the other vet services are not being utilized in that fashion, then it would kind of make sense that you're essentially appropriating funds from one other to this.
That's fine. I'd still like a breakdown, or I'd like to know why 33% to Garden State Vet.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed. Thank you. And yes, Councilman
Council
Brescher?
President, yes, this here is another no bid contract, if I'm not mistaken.
We have 3 different vendors for emergency veterinary services, so I don't believe that to be the case.
Do we have 3 different vendors that we're using?
We do.
Okay.
And just to also reiterate, their fees did increase from $185 to $200. So that is in part why you're looking at the increase, but I can certainly provide an expenditure report for you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. 11 from the Department of Law. A, ordinance amending Chapter 10 Police Regulations to modify the removal of graffiti section to conform with NJSA 40-48-2.59, municipal powers to abate graffiti, and B, resolution establishing and adopting a complete streets policy. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brescher.
Yes. Can the attorney explain to us the need for the change for the graffiti? Like, I know we've had graffiti. We've removed it. It's been it wasn't a complicated issue to remove it. And now we're changing something.
Yes. What this particular ordinance allows us to do, first, it comes into compliance with state law. And what it also does, and I think most importantly, is that it allows that if the township has to go out and clean graffiti, we now have the authority to put a lien on that property for doing so, which we didn't have under the prior ordinance. So I think that's the greatest change. It also creates a process by which if an individual feels that they have been cited improperly, now property owners also have a right to basically contest any violation for graffiti or any requirement that they abate the graffiti. They have a right now to be heard on that, where they previously didn't. So now we have a process that complies with state law.
Yeah, you know why I bring this up, and me and my council colleague, we disagree on this one, but and it's not a bad thing. It's just an opinion. But we paint the side of buildings, right? And Joe looks at it as art, and most people might look at it as art. Right. Myself, I look at it like the deterioration of the suburban community into a more urban community, which I know I've talked about trying to keep us suburban as opposed to urban. So with that being said, the kids that write their names with the funny letters and all that kind of stuff, to them, that's art, right? So the question is, graffiti, art, who makes that judgment call?
Can I just read from the definition from our current ordinance? It says graffiti means any form of inscription, word, figure, marking, or design that is marked, etched, scratched, drawn down, or painted on any building, structure, fixture, or other improvement, whether permanent or temporary, including by way of example, only and without limitation, fencing around construction sites, whether public or private, without the consent of the owner of the property or the owner's authorized agent, which is visible from the private right-of-way. So I believe the consent aspect is one part of it, and I don't have it off right in front of me, but I think there's another area where it says that, like, if someone chalks on your sidewalk, like, because it's a washable and not a permanent thing, that's not included in the graffiti definition.
If I could also add, Council President, that ultimately you said who decides, right? If the administration in its enforcement of this ordinance believes that it is graffiti, and that property says, no, it is not, ultimately they can bring an action to say that this is not, and ultimately a judge would have to decide whether or not. But ultimately it would be, if the township believes that it is graffiti, the burden is now going to be placed on the property owner to show that it is not. And that's what this ordinance allows for.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on that? Any other questions or comments from any of my other colleagues?
On B,
Yes, Councilman Patel.
I just want to say this is the moment that I'm really happy that we're taking this step. Even though it's a small step, I think it's the right step in the right direction. Since the 1950s, we have built our town centered around cars. And from Walt Toomey back in the 1980s, we had mayors that were auto dealers. They were auto dealers, and they essentially encouraged the town to be built where cars must be used. I think it's time that we take back our streets. Let's build our town around people and not cars. And I think this complete street policy leads us there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Council President?
Yes, Councilman Brusher.
Right. This goes back to where I was talking about before about suburban and urban. Urban, like our cities back in the 1900s and everything else, had this mass transportation. People drove a lot of bicycles. It was great. Then what happened was we moved forward with the automobile. Then the automobile is what has given Edison its ability to be here. If it wasn't for the automobile, there wouldn't be all these homes. There wouldn't be all these, places to drive. But I do agree that there has to be something for pedestrians, right? My question is, do we receive any money with this here? And what type of a cost increase is there to the Township of Edison in the implementation of this? Did we put together the cost factors for maybe grants we would receive, and then what the cost is to do this? Like if we're going to do bike lanes, right? And you're going to paint a bicycle every 300 feet on whatever amount of roads we have, 1,000 miles of roads, right? That has a cost. So do we have the cost for what this would be to kind of move forward, and the cost of maybe what grants we could possibly receive to see offsetting some of it?
From the cost perspective, and I don't know, Councilman Patel, if you'd like to elaborate, because I know this is kind of what you've been working on.
So in terms of the cost, we will be eligible for grants from the state after we pass this, and a lot of other towns have passed this already, especially our neighbor, Metuchen, as well. I'm glad you agree that there should be a space for a pedestrian, because I don't believe I want to live in a town that, if I want to cross the street, I need a car, because that's what's happening right now in Edison. And then in terms of overall doing it through the whole town, I don't think we're going to do it through the whole town overnight. I think this is more for any new streets that we build. We have to be mindful. It's more of a policy guidelines, and that we make sure that, what we had the presentation about the green streets, where we make sure that the roads are permeable so that the water can go down, so we'll have less flooding. So this is all more inclusive and holistic approach and policy that we can follow moving forward, and also be eligible for grants that the states provide, including making bike paths and all that other good stuff that we can bring to the town.
Councilman,
I wanted to ask them, so we have to pass all these policies first before we can ask them for that?
Yes.
Back and forth?
Well,
No, I like what he's saying about the urban place. I was here when Edison was suburban. I was here when there might have been one or two cars on the street while I would walk to school back and forth. I don't know who designed Edison, but it's ridiculous the amount of roads that two cars could barely fit down. It's like really ridiculous. So I don't know, you know what I mean? I'm glad we're gonna get some better policies or whatever, but it's like, it takes me forever. It's like a mile-long trip to get to the north side from this side, because you're stuck going down Grove Avenue. You can't even pass the person down Grove Avenue while you're going from Grove to Grove to Grove, until you get on the main Grove, the bigger Grove that's by St. Helena's. Until you get there, you don't have an option. And that's the part that, that's the part that's very disturbing to me, at all.
Council President?
Yeah.
I had asked just to mention something, if that's all right, just to more directly towards the cost aspect. My belief is that the immediate cost that the township would have to would be capital, in the sense of purchasing a thermoplastic striper. So if you recall from last year, we had the one resolution that we were striping the crosswalks in front of the schools. And the reason being was because we didn't have that specific equipment. So my understanding is that we would have to, that would be part of a capital expenditure to purchase that equipment so that we would be able to. Obviously, you would have ancillary items like the actual striping material that would come into play. But from like a labor perspective, you know, that's already covered with DPW costs and their regular hours and such. So I hope that addresses a little bit. And Councilman Patel, my
I
apologies.
just wanted to also point out, Councilwoman Joyce reminded me, this is also beneficial to school buses. You know, if we have more bike paths and more safe bike paths that parents feel comfortable letting their kids ride their bikes to school, I'm hoping that would increase kids riding to school, and that will decrease the traffic that we face in the morning whenever school is open.
Let me, since you've been on this, a quick question. People talk about bike paths. Okay. Now I have a 10-year-old grandson, right? Currently, he could ride on the street, on the blacktop, throughout all of Edison, right? And currently we have no regulations. But I would think that anybody driving, right, would say, hey, listen, I shouldn't hit a kid on a bike. But now we're going to, if I have this right, we're going to put a line on the side, right, so that the bikes stay in that line. But if there's a sidewalk, I'll be honest with you, I tell my grandson to drive on the sidewalk. I don't want my grandson driving in the street. You know, you're a distracted driver because you're texting or whatever you're doing, right? And you veer off. Now, if my grandson is in that bike lane, he gets run over and squished like a cantaloupe in there. If he's on the sidewalk, you hit the curb, you bounce back. You know, it's a wake-up call for you. So is there a way that if you're going to do something, to do it so that it's actually safe?
Well,
Right?
I would love it if we had sidewalks everywhere throughout Edison. Unfortunately, we don't, and this is one of the solutions to increase. I'm not saying that overnight everyone will start using bikes to commute to school, but at least it will give them an option to do it. Right now, they don't have a safe option. This is just, it's the right step in the right direction. That's all I'll say.
No, but what I'm saying is by putting a line on the blacktop and saying that bikes go on this side and cars go on this side, we are not making that any safer. Not even 1% safer. We won't, like 1% of potential hits won't happen because we drew a line. If it was like a curb, so that the car would hit the curb before it hit the child. Or if we went and put sidewalks in, like you were saying, right? I get it.
Ideally, I would love to have curbs, and I would love to have a separated, protected bike path.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think the cost implementation of it would be taken into account. And at first, I would just start with painted bike paths because it's the cheapest option. And down the road, we can look into making it more protected around at least the school area.
Thank you.
Council President,
Yes,
I know what
Councilman Clark.
Councilman Brescher is talking about. In fact, there's another level of that that's happening in Jersey City. And when I've looked around, I mean, this is the first step, and I thank you, Councilman, for putting this forward. It's the only step at the moment because when you look at our streets, they're not wide enough. And when you look at places like Jersey City or different areas that have a little wider street, what they're doing now is they're not having parking along the curb line. They're moving the parking off about 8 feet so that there is a protective bike lane, which that is something I would agree with my colleague, and I don't agree with him much. But just no comment. But anyway, but that would be in a perfect world, and I hope you get to that, Councilman, that if there's some areas that are wider that we can go through the administration and park outside the curb line, and that path would be protected by bicycles. So that would be a wonderful thing long term. But I'll take the striping for today, and let's see what brings tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. 12 from the Department of Planning and Engineering. A, resolution approving to submit a grant application to the NJDOT for the Jackson Avenue Rehabilitation Project. B, resolution approving the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program and the filing of the 2023 Annual Action Plan. C, resolution refunding the unused portion of developer escrow fees, and D, resolution refunding of tree maintenance bond. Any questions or comments?
Council President?
I was about to nod to Councilman Brasher, so.
Oh, okay. I just have two items. C, resolution awarding contract for flooring in various locations.
Just not to interrupt, we're under planning and engineering.
Oh, jeez. Oh, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry, Councilman.
No worries, thank you. Councilman Patel?
For 12B, for the Community Development Block Grant Program, is there a way we can do more to get more grant money back? Like, I just want to learn more about this program as to what can we do to get more money on that.
I apologize. It's usually about the same. It doesn't necessarily increase in that sense. I can certainly provide you with a little more background, but it's usually always the same amount. It's just dependent on how we distribute the funds.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none. 13 from the Department of Public Works. A, resolution to release street opening escrows. B, resolution awarding contract purchase order for fencing at Oak Tree Pond, Hale Park, Beatrice Park, the Animal Shelter, and Water Sewer Building. C, resolution awarding contract purchase order for flooring at Minnie B. Veal Rec Center, Senior Center, and Town Hall TV Station, $201,542. And my apologies for B, it's $296,220. D, resolution awarding contract purchase order for playground surfacing at Dwyer Park, Lindquist Park, Hale Park, Elmira Park, Shamrock Park, and Winter Street Park, $324,042. E, resolution authorizing contract purchase order for the playground shelter at Dwyer Park, $46,500. F, resolution authorizing contract purchase order for playground equipment at Dwyer Park, Lindquist Park, Hale Park, Elmira Park, Shamrock Park, and Winter Street Park, $443,393. And G, resolution awarding contract purchase order for plumbing services not to exceed $75,000. Any questions or comments? Councilman Brasher?
Council President. C, for flooring at various locations. Who decides the colors and products that we're putting down throughout the township? And I ask only for one reason, because I noticed that we did the stairs here, and we did it in what I would say is a white. I mean, I do recognize it's an off-white. And if it were in my home and we were walking around in socks, right, it makes sense. But right now, I don't know, well, we haven't cleaned it yet to clean up all the marks since I've been here. But if you were, it would be a couple hours to clean up all the marks and streaks and stuff. So what I'm talking about is who's looking at the product out to make sure that it's good for commercial use, you know, like the VCT or the flooring we're using isn't a type that will delaminate, you know, because the old floor I think we had there since 1960, whatever, when the building was built. And I don't know that this new flooring will last, you know, the same amount of time.
Sure. Typically, any improvement is done in conjunction administration with public works and engineering, depending on what the project is. So it's done together as a group.
So the group of professionals we have pick the white color for the stairs?
Usually comes as a recommendation from DPW in most cases.
Okay. So you don't know how that happened? Like, this is like how the warehouses ended up, for Amazon, they ended up on one side, not on the other, or the lights ended up. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that analogy necessarily, other than your question is to the color choice.
Color and product. I mean, product we won't know, right, for 4 years at the end of the mayor's term when it starts to delaminate, right? The question's going to be, who approved this? Like, that's where I'm going. I'm looking for somebody's name on the approvals, right? Because when I do jobs, I submit a bunch of samples to you, my client, and you sign off on them. Now, I keep that for my record so that when somebody asks 10 years from now, like, who picked this, you know, there's a record of it. So I'm looking for the responsible party that's picking the materials and the color choices. So I have a record of it moving forward. You know, in case I have an issue, I could say, why did you pick white? That's where I'm going.
Typically it comes through DPW.
Okay, so that'd be the DPW director?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a copy for the approval for the staircase here and the flooring that we put in downstairs? Okay, that's it for C. D, the playground resurfacing. I was told by our commissioner, Commissioner Rios, approximately a year ago, and this council actually approved funds for Polanski Park. I was talking with some political officials down at the county, and they told me that we paved Polanski Park. And I had to inform them that I've never seen a paving machine able to pave a pothole. So I could tell you it wasn't paved. So where are we with, like, why wasn't that park on with these other parks?
I'll follow up with you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
That would be it, Council President.
Thank you.
Council President?
Yes, Council Vice President Harris.
On G, the resolution awarding contract purchase order for plumbing services not to exceed $75,000. Just for clarification, are these services that cannot be performed in-house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Yes,
I just was
Councilwoman
wondering
Schiffrin.
because, Council President, I was wondering, because we just spent enormous amount of money with DPW, and I've seen some of it before. It looked like some of this stuff is repetitive, that we're, for fencing in various locations, and everything is various locations. So I just want, if you can get me the parks that are, that are in those various locations that the shelters and the stuff is being done at, because I don't know, it seems like reparative, and I'm like, we gave a lot of money to DPW, and I just be nervous because I haven't seen a budget, and when somebody spoke about us not getting the budget in September, I don't remember ever Mayor Lanky telling us that we were gonna get it before then. You know what I mean? The thing is, if you tell somebody you're getting something before, you're getting something by April, and you don't get it to September, is a different story. But if you don't tell anybody anything and it just happens to fall in your lap in September, that's a different story. That's what it is. You just have to say, well, from the door, you can't say that I'm gonna give it to you in April. Leave it alone. Therefore, nobody won't hold you to that information, because I just see with budgets and stuff, I do a household budget, and I don't want to spend all my money up before I even get there, and not know exactly what I have left in my coffers, what I have left to maintain me to the end of the year at all. That's my whole issue about this DPW. I just see us pouring more, and I would just like, at this particular time, to at least let me know how much money we've poured into DPW from January till now. That's all. If you can, thank you.
Thank you. Sonia, I think I saw you wanted, and I apologize about that. Did you want to address any of the?
Yes, of course, if I may. All of these improvements are from previous capital budgets, so they have nothing to do with this year's coming budget.
And Councilwoman, if I was.
No, I was going to tell her. I know, because I was the person that was saving up the money to give to the council people now. I saved up and I tried to be very physically responsible. I redid things with Kinder Roberts and all that stuff so we could go to this next level that we're at now. So that's why, if you want to know, that's why I'm inquisitive and wondering about things, because I know that, Clinton set up Bush with all the money, but then it disappeared. That's why I don't want to happen to us. That's it.
Councilwoman, if I may, first, in the last meeting where we had the fencing upgrades, I put together a list of all that we've authorized, so I'll get that to you. And in regards to the capital account that this is coming from, I had asked Mr. DeRoberts to give me a list of all the capital accounts that we have, so I can give you what that what that amount originally was, subtracting these items from there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Council
Any other-
President?
Yes, Councilman Patil.
Just great to see that, we finally are resurfacing our various parks, putting various equipments, and hopefully, they will be done soon once this council approves, and the kids and the families will be able to use those facilities again. This is the great initiative. It was a long overdue that we should have invested in our infrastructure, and yes, I'm in fully support of these initiatives.
Thank you. Councilman Patel?
Yeah, I would like to echo the statements. I think parks are one of the greatest assets that our residents can use, and I'm glad that we're spending our money wisely on the parks because I think they'll serve all the residents very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? For myself, I think that these improvements are going to be a great asset, especially for our youth. Some of the things that I really liked in regards to the swing sets that are being put in, they're called like partner swings, where like they're almost like tandem swings, where you can have the adult and the child in the same unit to swing, for lack of better words. So those types of upgrades, I think, are phenomenal for our youth. Before we proceed, I believe we have to authorize to extend the meeting because work sessions go till 9 o'clock.
No, 10.
It's 10 o'clock for both work and regular?
I'm not aware of the rule. Yeah.
But if you want to be on the safer side, we can always move the motion.
to do a motion if you like.
I believe that work session is till 9 without the authorization, so just for the sake of just making sure. Can I get a motion to extend the meeting past 9 for 1 hour?
Motion to extend meeting?
Seconded.
Can this be a voice?
Yes, voice vote,
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
1 hour, right?
Yes. 14 from the Department of Recreation, a resolution awarding volleyball teams reimbursements for good standing. Any questions or comments?
Seeing none, we go on to number 15 from the Chief of Police. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. From the number 16 from the Chief of Fire, resolution authorizing the refund of fire prevention revenue collected but not required. Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we go to number 17 from the council member of the Planning Board.
May 15th meeting was canceled, and the next meeting will take place on June 19th. Thank you.
Okay, on to discussion items number 18, starting from my left, Councilwoman Ship Freeman.
Started last time.
You did? Well, okay, there's that, okay. Starting from my right, Councilman Brescher.
Yes, at the last meeting, we were talking about that housing complex that had the mold and had issues. The business administrator was going to follow up to see what was happening with that because the tenant, I think, somebody did a mold report. And when our health department went out there, they said they didn't smell mold, but the other person had to test it. So your update on that?
Councilman Brusher, I believe those reports were sent to you.
Well, okay, so, I'm going to try and make it simpler. I requested the information. You did forward me the information. I read the information, and in the information, it said that something to the effect of the resident had a mold report done on September or November, and our health inspector went out there in January or February, and they said we didn't smell mold. Now, at that last meeting, I said, what remediation was done from their mold report, right? From that September, November, and you told me you were going to get back to me. So I came to this council meeting because I didn't get anything, and I thought that you would know. So could you follow up on that, maybe have that for me or for tomorrow or Wednesday? I mean, they should have been notified and they should have went out there.
Sure.
Okay. There no crossing guards, no water. Yes. Resident sent me a text. Their concern about us doing broadband is they said that our township cannot handle the crossing guards, and they have not yet had the ability to replace water mains or sewer mains in our town. How can they therefore start another business? The residents are basically saying, we're not doing the water main or sewer main replacements. John gave me a list of everything that was being done, because I asked for how many miles. Remember, I asked for how many miles, which isn't what you gave me. What you gave me was a list of everything that the water and sewer department did, which was not how many miles of pipe we put in. So I re-clarified that probably 3 times so that I thought we could make sure that we were all on the same page. And what I got didn't have that. So the residents are saying if we're not replacing sewer lines or water lines, and we're supposed to, because we started this new entity, and we can't handle the crossing guards, their question was, how are you going to handle the company of like a broadband?
Councilman Berger, there were several questions that you had there. So the question relates to broadband,
Yes.
correct? I just
Yes.
want to be clear.
Yes, they
Okay.
had 2 statements that they made. Okay, one that we couldn't handle the crossing guards, so we're outsourcing it. 2, that we're not replacing water mains and sewer mains. So if we're not doing that, and that we're supposed to do, why are we then jumping forward with the broadband and not getting this done?
The broadband issue, or rather the process, it is, unfortunately, it is a lengthy process, and it requires us to, one, there was a feasibility study, as you all have seen before you this evening. The competitive contracting that would go out would be for us to develop a business plan in the event we create the utility of broadband. That's in order for us to set our markers of how we're going to actually set up the infrastructure and the utility itself. So it does take some time in order to build the broadband aspect of it. Would you like me to address the crossing guards? I believe I did that in the past, but I can certainly reiterate that and what we're doing.
Right, this is just their statement. I mean, the water thing, part of that was my statement where I said I looked at the study. They said that we're not replacing it, and right, I reviewed the documentation that Council President sent, and it shows that we're not really replacing these mains. I'd like to get Bob Smith, and I think yourself, said that we were getting this like 5-year plan or 10-year plan. That was also months ago. So again, another item that I haven't received, so I get to where the residents go, right? Move forward with another company when we don't have the company moving forward yet. That was it. That was it, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Coyle?
Council President, I just want to talk about beautification. I do, have a lot of discussion with residents, and while I'm walking street to street, talking to residents, the quality of life seems to be an important role people like to see happen in their community. And I just want to read some quick statements that are part of the beautification description here and what it does to communities. Beautification is the process of enhancing the aesthetics appeal of a town or city by improving the physical environment, such as public spaces, buildings, and streetscapes. The transformation not only adds to beautify of a town or a downtown, but it also has numerous benefits for the community, including improving mental health. I thought the fact that this article talks about mental health and what that does continuously is truly important. And I won't read all of this, but I'll just read a little bit more because there's more examples here. Beautification can also have a significant impact on the overall image of a town, city. When streets are clean, buildings are well maintained, and the public spaces are beautiful, it creates a sense of pride and ownership for that community. Visitors are more likely to be attracted to a beautiful town or city, which can lead to increased tourism, economic development, or job opportunities. Moreover, beautification can transform an underutilized or derelict spaces with graffiti and replace them with wonderful, beautiful murals. That wasn't written, but I put that in myself. Okay, but I'll retract the original statement. Moreover, beautification can transform an underutilized derelict spaces into beautiful public spaces. These areas can provide a space of community events and gathering to promote social interaction and enhance community engagement. For example, adding green spaces such as parks and community gardens can also improve the mental health, providing opportunities for physical activities and connections with nature. I'll go on another day, but I just think the quality of life overall for the taxpayers of Edison truly impacts the greatest investment they've ever made, which is purchasing a home. I think this town has demonstrated, and this council, wonderful things to improve the quality of life of Edison. I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you up here over the course of 7.5 years I've been here. I think we've made some great strides. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Council Vice President Harris?
Yes. Once again, I was remiss when I was speaking in points of light and not recognizing Joyce Furch's her involvement in the bike tour. She did a great job in organizing this, and in addition, she welcomed her first grandchild yesterday. So I just want to put a shout out to Joyce Furch for a job extremely well done, and congratulations on your new blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Patel?
None, sir.
Councilman Patil?
Thank you, Council President. A couple of things through Council President. Question to our business administrator: how far we are in the paving program in terms of the number of streets? Approximately, how far we are in the paving program?
About 2 weeks ago, we were about 56 streets, and we added another 13, so we're probably about 3/4 of the way onto our streets.
Okay, thank you. And my second one is just a follow-up on the transition from the CME on the flood engineering study. Did we get any further along that?
On all of the flooding, we have a list of all the projects, and I can share
You
that
did
with
send
you.
it to me,
Yes.
but are we anticipating anything to be done this summer?
We're hoping so, once we get the budget adopted, that we can get some of these proposals out.
Okay. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Freeman?
Yes, since we want to talk about environment and what's beautiful, if you go like less than a mile down the street from my house, you will find a bunch of tankers sitting there. I asked and I inquired about them. They said, oh, but there's no gas in them. So maybe I lost it or something, but in a tanker, the residue and the fumes from the gas stays in there. I'm not that slow. I know that much at all. So when we're talking about beautification, we're talking about the environmental stuff, hey, so when I make a left, before I even get to Metuchen, I can see all these tankers sitting there. And it's very, very nerve-wracking to me, because all it takes is a match, the way things have been catching on fire. And you know we don't have that much rain around anymore. And the other thing, another thing I wanted to ask you about, if we're connected to it for the Route 287, Route 27 ramp that's supposed to be redone. Are we connected to that?
I can answer hopefully both your concerns. The first is the tankers. We've issued summonses, many summonses now, and it's pending before the municipal court. They're illegally. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. We've been on them like every day we go out there, and I think we read them a summons every other day. So there's a whole list of violations that we will present to the court. As far as the 287 ramp, they're working on that right now. If you were out there today, they had the traffic all backed up because the first phase of that is the changing of the light poles. They're moving all the electrical and the wiring and all that good stuff. Okay. And one of the things we did was we grant them 3 planning board approvals with the gas station and the entranceways and the way the whole thing's going to be orchestrated for the traffic. With that, I insisted that the landscaping all be redone. It's all going to be rebermed. There's going to be fountains in that water. All that riprap is going to be decorative riprap. It's going to be expanded. There's going to be sidewalks put in there. There's flags going up because it's an entrance to our town, and I've been very, very tough on them, and they're starting to perform now. So the project is on its way, and I think hopefully will be happy with the result, because it really upsets me every time I drive by there and I saw that sump pump just blowing up muddy water. That just absolutely made me crazy, and so we've made changes to their plan, their landscaping. What they have to do, there's going to be sidewalks, like I said, there's going to be park benches, you can sit there. So it's going to be a real pretty setting when we get finished.
Oh, thank you. Is it going to cost us anything?
It's not costing us, it's on the developer. It's all on the Rockefeller Group, and I think Amazon, who rents or owns that one piece of property. And all that dead landscaping, it's all going to get repaired, replaced. If you guys remember, there was a garbage can sitting out there almost close to Route 27 with weeds growing up alongside of it. Just absolutely made me nuts. So I've been on them as well.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then if you want a little more update, after that, we've been looking to clean up that whole entranceway. So the car dealer, we've been on him. The bank across the street where all that dead, beautiful landscape they didn't take care of and died last year, that's all going to be replaced real soon. So we're on all those people. All the dead landscaping on the other side of 27 for Amazon was all replaced with large-sized plantings. It's all been redone now, and that was done within the last month or so.
Well, I thank you so much. And one other thing, I just want to know about our sewers and our pumps and our pump stations, like how far, because I know we did a whole new water thing, but when you get a chance to let me know which of those are we working on, because I know that the sewer is a problem that's about to blow up. I just want that taken care of at all. And last but not least, I just wanted to say, because I know all about media, I know people who feed media stuff, and I wish that reporters were like they used to be. Like, you can't put my name and put something in the paper and not even call me or ask me anything about it at all. You can't just all of a sudden say, hey, well, she abstained. Well, why did she abstain? Like, just don't, you know what I mean? And I know people feed stuff to the media. It's not like it was when I was growing up. You know what I mean? So I hope the person who's listening now, I hope they understand, stop feeding stuff unless you're going to do the whole story on me. Thank you.
Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Freeman. Councilman Patel.
Council President, I just want to make a remark on what our engineering head, Hank Bignell, updated on the fast lane coming from 287, the update you gave. That was something, we were waiting for a long time, especially when that warehouse went up, and I was getting nervous. In fact, I spoke on this council dais that when we are going to get that lane, and finally it is coming to the closure, but also helping to beautify that neighborhood, and great to see that happening. And hopefully that will come to the fruition very shortly. But again, thank you for doing that job and putting the checks on those people who are a little slow or who are not doing that great type of business around that area, and keeping Edison clean. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, I do not have any. Any other final discussion items? Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Patil, seconded by Council Vice President Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting stands adjourned.